Okay, good morning, everyone. It is, I've been here so long, I forget what the date is. It is Friday, March 15th. It is 9 a.m., so I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Public Education Commission. Commissioner Beck, will you please take roll? Correct. Thanks.
Commissioner Burt,
Here.
Commissioner Ingham,
Here.
Commissioner Kosticillage. She's here. Commissioner Brower,
Here.
Commissioner Manus,
Here.
Commissioner Armijo,
Here.
Commissioner Taylor. He's here. Chair Gibson,
Here.
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Here.
and Secretary Beck is here. We have 10, all 10 commissioners.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to ask Commissioner Manus to lead us in the pledge, and if Commissioner Taylor's back, the salute to the New Mexico flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol, perfect friendship among united cultures.
So before we start our regular agenda, I'd just like to pause for a moment and recognize the service of former Commissioner Carmi Toulouse. Sorry. To pass, I can't do it.
Commissioner Toulouse passed away this past week. I know that Chair Gibson was able to see her several days before, so she had been worried that she wasn't going to get to see her before she had gone into hospice and then kind of had a very quick decline. But I at least was really glad that Commissioner Gibson was able to be with her, at least for a little while. She was certainly a very, very dedicated member of this commission and a very dedicated public servant in New Mexico, and did a lot of good work for this commission.
Madam Chair, may I? I just want to acknowledge the passing of Carmi as well. I had so many great fond memories as a charter person, as the charter school director. She was a person who also supported me, as well as Glenna supported me as well to run for this office. And so I just think about how her legacy is so strong. And on a personal note, there was no one other than Madam Chair who was such a stalwart for many of the schools that I supported prior to being a public education commissioner with NACA-inspired schools. Both Patty and Carmi were such huge supporters, and they were so stalwart in their support of the work that we were doing. And I will always remember Carmi starting conversations and only the way that Carmi can. I always loved her saying that I come from a family of French trappers, and it always was just so. She would say that and say her introduction, and then get right down into her passion for the schools. And I'm just really thankful for that. And the team that I work with, including Kara Bobroff, we're all just really heartbroken from her loss. And thank you, Madam Chair, for bringing her into the space today.
We're on to item number 2, approval of the agenda. And
Motion to approve.
there's a motion by Commissioner Carrillo and a second by Commissioner Ingham. Any discussion?
Chair Gibson,
Is a hand up? Sorry. Yes.
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingham,
Yes.
Commissioner Klobuchar,
Perfect. Yes.
Commissioner Brower,
Yes.
Commissioner Manus,
Yes.
Commissioner Armijo,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor, Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Secretary Beck, yes, 9-4-0 against.
Thank you. We are now on to item number 3, which is open forum. And I know I saw a number of people sign up. I'll just ask people, when you do, come on and unmute yourself, if you would please say your name and spell your last name for the record.
First, we have Jana Holguin.
Okay, can you hear me?
And good morning.
Good morning. My name is Jana Holguin. Last name is spelled Holguin. Good morning, esteemed members of the Public Education Commission. I'm here today not only as a concerned member of our community, but as a staunch advocate for the health, safety, and the rights of the students, faculty, and staff of Alma de Arte Charter High School. The issues I bring to your attention are not mere grievances, but urgent matters that demand your immediate attention and action. Let's start with the violations of the special education rights within Alma de Arte. Imagine the plight of students who rely on Chromebooks as part of their IEPs, only to have these essential tools confiscated before the semester's end, leaving them stranded without means to complete their coursework. Furthermore, the recent removal of accommodations from students' IEPs and 504 plans without due process or consultation is a blatant disregard for the rights of these vulnerable students. Equally concerning is the deliberate misinformation propagated by the administration regarding student attendance. The administration's reporting of zero tardies among students is misleading due to new policy that considers latenesses as absence, skewing the attendance records. This misinformation may contribute to the involuntary disenrollment of students with purported excessive absences, leading to the repercussions such as transcript withholding, impacting their academic progress, GPA, and graduation prospects. Proper procedures for handling these attendance issues appear to be lacking, exacerbating the situation for affected students. The lack of transparency and accountability in this matter is deeply troubling. Furthermore, the nepotism and cronyism that plague the school's governance structure undermine the integrity of the board and compromise its ability to serve the best interests of the students. 3 of the 4 board members have close ties to Kim Skaggs, the current president of the board, indicating nepotism and cronyism within the board structure. This situation undermines the board's ability to fulfill its governance and responsibilities and prioritize the best interests of the students. The lack of diversity and transparency, coupled with instances of nepotism, such as the recent appointment of a board member's husband, raise concerns about conflicts of interest and fair governance practices. Additionally, the recent election of officers, which merely involves swapping titles among the existing members, further suggests lack of genuine leadership rotation. Moreover, recent aggressive behavior by Ms. Skaggs toward individuals like Eden Luche during the most recent board meeting are contrary to the Alma governing bylaws, Article 2F and Article 5E under conduct, which mandate professional conduct with courtesy and respect. These issues underscore potential ethical violations and raise concerns and questions about the board's commitment to fairness, impartiality, and transparency in its governance practices. Transparency and accountability at Alma are severely lacking, as evidenced by the school's website failing to provide current and essential information. Documents such as meeting minutes, financial reports, and agendas have not been updated for months, depriving stakeholders of vital insights into the school's operation and finances. Moreover, despite the continuity of some administrative members, including Ms. Skaggs and Ms. Swafford, who have served on the board for 3 to 4 years, the website still displays outdated information as of March 14th, 2024. This persistent lack of transparency raises significant concerns about the school's governance process and undermines the trust in the institution. The erosion of the LGBTQIA acceptance within Alma de Arte Charter High School contradicts its stated principles of inclusivity and diversity. the removal of rainbow-themed items, and the engagement of mental health providers from Catholic Charities, an organization known for its conservative stance on LGBTQIA issues, has created a hostile environment for vulnerable students. This environment undermines students' abilities to express their identities freely and seek support for mental health struggles. Given the heightened risk of mental health issues among LGBTQIA youth, the school's actions endanger the well-being of its students. Tragically, the school has already experienced a student suicide this year. We do not need more. This underscores the urgency of addressing these issues. Furthermore, the involvement of the religious organizations in mental health services raises concerns about the school's adherence to the principle of separation between church and state. As a public charter school, Alma de Arte is obligated to maintain religious neutrality and provide a secular education free from religious influence. However, the current situation suggests a departure from these principles, potentially marginalizing students of diverse religious backgrounds and compromising their access to equal educational opportunities. This deviation from the core tenets of the charter school operation is deeply troubling and demands immediate attention to ensure the well-being, safety, and rights of all students. The troubling history of Dr. Amador's disruptive behavior and questionable actions cast serious doubt
I'm
on
sorry,
his.
but I'm going to ask you to please try to wrap it up.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll just go to the last part. So given the serious issues plaguing Alma de Arte Charter High School, I appeal to the Public Education Commission to take urgent action. It's imperative that the commission declare Alma de Arte in a state of emergency and issue a 72-hour notice of breach to the school administration. These steps are necessary to address the SPED violations, ethical breaches, transparency deficits, and discriminatory actions that have persisted unchecked. The mental health, safety, and well-being of Alma de Arte students, faculty, and staff hang in the balance. And it is the commission's responsibility to intervene decisively to ensure that the school operates with integrity and accountability. Thank you for your attention to this urgent matter.
Thank you. And I apologize. I forgot to state that we're asking public comment to be limited to, as best you can, 2 minutes. So I'm going to ask those that are still on to please try to stick to the 2 minutes. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Missy, how many are in public comment?
3, including the person who just talked.
Request it, but they get 3 minutes if they can.
Our next speaker is Chris Stout-Barty. Chris Stout-Barty.
Good morning. Am I unmuted?
No, we can hear you. Thank you. So if you please, once again, state your name and spell your last name.
Yeah, Chris Stout-Barty, last name Stout-Bardey. So good morning. And what Ms. Holguin just did was take the wind out of my sails. I had a lot of things to cover. She covered it so well. I want to support everything she said. And my question to the commission, and you know, I included my email when I signed into the Zoom, and I'm wondering if anybody might email me back about this, but what is the remedy for schools when you have a hostile takeover of a governance council? When you have people that get in power, as she said, who use nepotism and cronyism to keep their power, who are unaccountable, consider themselves unaccountable, they refuse to be transparent, and they allow real bad actors to do what the administration at Alma de Arte has done. What really is the remedy there? Because we don't have, you know, the community can't vote them out. They can't vote better members on. The governing council rejected a very qualified candidate at their last meeting in February. One has to assume for political reasons. And so the remedy, so I guess is a rhetorical question, because I think the remedy is you all's emergency procedures. So I just wanted to second everything Ms. Holguin said and say that the emotional and mental health of students, families, and staff who consider this an emergency situation, please stop slow walking this intervention ladder process and please get to work. Somebody needs to protect these kids, and it's you all that needs to do it. We've been trying. For 3 months, we've been talking to media people. We've been talking to elected officials. We've been talking to people in the PEC. And still, it feels like the Governance Council, the administration at Alma de Arte have more rights than the rest of us do. They're being treated with kid gloves. please take off those kid gloves and get to work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Finally, we have Cindy Delancey, Delanoy.
Okay, it's Delanoy. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my name is Cindy Delanoy. I am the mother of Malachi Delanoy, the student who committed suicide from Alma de Arte. Dr. Amador has proven himself unfit for any position with children. He has a history of bullying. I read an article October 23rd of 2018. He was accused of bullying a Carlsbad High School student who took a stand for a Second Amendment at a rally involving him and other Carlsbad students. Malachi was at Alma de Arte 1.5 weeks with Amador in charge, and he went home and hung himself in his closet. We have to live with this. I had another student there at Alma. I was, because I kept asking for help in getting the student that was bullying Malachi addressed. I didn't get any satisfaction. I kept asking for a meeting. I was ignored. So I went in and I got very loud. When I finally got very loud, I was pulled into his office all by myself. He does not allow any witnesses for the person complaining, only himself, so that he can lie. And he does lie. So I was removed from campus and told that I was not allowed on there at all with threat of arrest. I still had a student enrolled there. I wasn't even allowed to contact teachers. So the reports are at the last time I talked to students that were still going there, Amador is still going through the halls, mad dogging and bullying the students to try to intimidate them into behaving the way he wants, not the way that they should, not the way that children should behave. He has a history of destroying art projects and programs. He destroyed the Carlsbad High School students' artwork that was designed to bring to light social issues. And he let go almost all of the art teachers at the art school, Alma de Arte. Not only that, but he did not have certified teachers for the science program, for the science classes or the math classes for almost an entire semester this first semester. My child is behind because of it. My other child had to leave that school and take a year off because he was being bullied by that stupid man that's in charge. He was glaring at him and making snide remarks when Michael would walk by. And Michael was trying to get over his brother committing suicide. Amador had a settled lawsuit because he had a so-called viewpoint discrimination. He said that the mother of the student who he bullied at Carlsbad, he said that she called him a dirty Mexican, and no one else heard it. So there was a lawsuit that he settled out of court. And he now said that Ms. White, the science teacher that he let go, it was because she called students.
I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you to try to finish up.
All right, there's no substantiation behind his calls to being called the victim when he's actually the bully. He lied to me. He said there were no reports of bullying when I know there were because I reported it, and so did several other students. He appears to be bounced around different schools rather than being addressed. It seems to me like he is being treated like a Catholic priest who sexually abuses students instead of being addressed and taken away from being involved with students. My son will not be the last suicide. He will not if he's allowed to stay there.
Thank you.
And finally, we have Janet Van Koblen.
Good morning, Janet. If you can unmute yourself, and if you will, once again, state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Sure. My name is Janet Van Koblen. Last name is 2 words, VAN. space COBLIJN. Oh, I'm calling from Doha, Qatar I'm here. So obviously this is important to me as well as the people who have also made public comment. A variation on some of our concerns includes the manipulation and smearing of and lying about and accusations against teachers and students and even parents of sexual misconduct. But if there really was sexual misconduct in a classroom, there's no police report, there's been no investigation, there's no follow through. And it's being used to the detriment of a student and teacher, as well as a manipulation tool by both Mrs. Romero and Dr. Amador to follow whatever this agenda is. And as has been stated, the lies, the deflection, and the manipulation of truth it's overwhelming. And we've been through this. This has been going on since September. The threats, the intimidation, and the targeting. And the fact that the children, the students, have been so adversely affected, whether they had to leave because Amador disenrolled them without following the procedure, or because they felt that they weren't getting any of the classes, they weren't allowed to take the classes that they wanted, or because they felt that the environment was too oppressive or toxic. I mean, he says that they still have 130 students, but we know it's a lie, because there are at least 20 to 30 students that we know of who are still waiting for their transcripts. So again, I think, as I told PED months ago, it's too late to be going through the initial stages of investigating what's going on there. And it's obvious that this is Dr. Amador's standard mode of operation. His track record is, at best, he stays someplace for a year. He's followed by controversy, and not only should he not be allowed to teach or be near students at Alma, he shouldn't be able to be in a school anywhere.
Jen, I'm going to ask you to
That's it.
please finish up. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's everybody.
We are now on to item number 4, school highlights and spotlights. Secretary Beck?
Yes, I'd like to do a shout out to it's blocking my head. The Cottonwood Classic, thank you. The Cottonwood Classic, their boys and girls swim team won the state championship for 1-3A. So that's really impressive.
So I'm going to say I'm pleased that on Monday, I will be at Las Montañas. They are hosting a career summit, and Lieutenant Governor is coming down to participate in that summit. So I'm looking forward to hopefully a lively discussion on where the supports are going to be for that. Okay. We are on to item number 5, which is the consent agenda. Do we have, Director?
Yes, Chair Gibson, if I may give a shout out also. Yesterday, Solari had a grand opening, and there were several of us were invited. I know we were one able to make it, but they discussed plans to build an elementary school behind the existing structure and gave visitors an opportunity to tour the building, which it was built in a record amount of time. There should be some press about it. There were members of PED, Public Charter Schools New Mexico, senators, and we sent our staff person, Ted, to go there, and he said it was just terrific.
There's actually an article in the paper that many of us reflected on. So we are now back to item number 5, which is the consent agenda. Do we have any thing that commissioners need off? Okay. I will entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
There's a motion by Commissioner Ingham,
Second.
second by Commissioner Manus. No discussion. Secretary Beck?
Commissioner Manus,
Yes.
Commissioner Brower,
Yes.
Commissioner Klaus Shisilich,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingham,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Yes.
Chair Gibson,
Yes.
Commissioner Armijo,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Secretary Beck, yes. It passes 10-0.
Thank you very much. We have nothing for item 6 because nothing was removed. Item number 7, introduction of new head administrators. I don't think we have any, correct? Okay. So we are on to item number 8, discussion and possible action on the request for extension of time for the completion of the transition year checklist. Commissioners will remember that that was included with their renewal, and there are 2 requests by the 2 schools in your packets. So does anyone want to say anything? I'm going to say for me, I support the idea. There's a lot on that checklist, and because these are particularly schools that obviously are transitioning over, it was like a double-edged sword because we were going on to the new performance framework. So even our current schools were tasked with doing a lot different than what they were used to. And then these schools had to work a lot to get and are still working. One school is still challenged. But that option 2, as much support as we have offered, it's vastly different. And then there's any number of things that districts don't require of their charters that we do. So I think it's fair and reasonable to give the schools a little bit of breath and allow them now to focus on that. There are.
And so if you remember yesterday's work session, where we had that session on when schools want to join us, kind of giving them information beforehand, this is precisely why. Because they didn't, they're coming from places often where they had little to no support. So there was a lot on their plate. So that's why we had that in the work session yesterday. So there's no one out there that wants to speak. I'll go ahead and move that we accept the, oh, there's probably a motion that you drew up.
There's 2 separate motions.
All right. Let me bring those up. Or you already have them up. You can go ahead and
Sure.
do it. Sorry.
So I move that the Dream Dene Charter Schools request to extend the deadline to provide documents required in transition year checklist be extended to May 15th, 2024.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Gibson, a second by Commissioner Carrillo. Any further discussion? Secretary Beck?
Chair Gibson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingham,
Yes.
Commissioner Klaus Shisilich,
Yes.
Commissioner Armijo,
Yes.
Commissioner Manus,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Brower,
Yes.
Secretary Beck, yes. There are 10 votes for. Motion passes.
So I move that San Diego Riverside Charter Schools request to extend the deadline to provide documents required in the transition year checklist be extended to May 15th, 2024.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Gibson, a second by Commissioner Manus. And the only piece of discussion that I will offer is the original date was in early June. I'm a little challenged with that June date, so I'm more comfortable with keeping it at the May date.
I felt the same way.
Yeah, okay. If there's no further discussion,
Commissioner Armijo,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Brower,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Yes.
Chair Gibson,
yes,
Commissioner Manus,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Commissioner Klosicillage,
yes.
Commissioner Ingham,
Yes.
Secretary Beck, yes. 10 votes for, 0 votes against. Motion passes.
Thank you. We are on to item number 9, which is the discussion of possible action on the acceptance of the annual reports for 22-23. And from your original information, Vista Grande's school had to be taken off because they were the school last year that negotiated the option, and it wasn't considered in the annual report, so that has to be reconfigured. So they'll be on next month, and so
Chair, do you want me to share that we now have the data from Vista Grande?
no, because I don't want a further discussion of the school. I just wanted commissioners to know why they're not on this one's, but I don't want that discussion because the school, we're okay.
Okay, just
Yeah, no, we're okay.
wanted to let you know we're on it.
Yeah, no, we're okay. So I am going to move that the PEC accept the annual reports, including the corrected report. Keep changing the words as I'm reading. Okay. I move that the PEC accept the annual reports, including a corrected annual report for the school year 22-23. Did we not name the school in the corrected? It says including a corrected report, but it doesn't say what school. Should we say the school for the corrected report? Okay. Include Aldo Leopold. Including a corrected annual report for Aldo Leopold for the school year 22-23, provided by the Charter School Division for the schools identified in the agenda 9A through 9I. L, sorry. I don't have my glasses on. I'm sorry.
Microphone, please.
The documents are correct. It identifies no, you're correct. Thank you.
Oh, you're right. It says M.
Madam Chair, but we took out Vista Grande though, right?
Oh,
Let's
Correct.
change, the documents are correct in the folder, so I think we should say, thank you, for the schools let's just say for the following. Sure. For the following schools, and then you can just read them.
I'm going to redo this. We're not doing any school. We're accepting all of the reports, and then we go back to the individuals. So I move that the PEC accept the annual reports, including a corrected annual report for Aldo Leopold for the school year 22-23, provided by the Charter School Division for the following schools: ACES Technical Charter School, Albuquerque Bilingual Academy, Albuquerque Institute for Mathematics and Science, Aldo Leopold Charter School, Estancia Valley Classical Academy, Las Montañas Charter High School, Mission Achievement and Success Charter School, Pecos Cyber Academy, Rio Grande Academy of Fine Arts, the Albuquerque Sign Language Academy, Thrive Community School, and Walatoa High Charter School.
Second.
The motion by Commissioner Gibson and a second by Commissioner Taylor. Commissioner Beck?
Commissioner Brower,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Chair Gibson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Manus,
Yes.
Commissioner Armijo,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingham,
Yes.
Commissioner Klaus Jasilich,
Yes.
Secretary Beck, yes. That passes 10-0.
Thank you. So now we are on to item number 10, which is discussion of possible action to issue the annual report notices based on annual reports that were listed. So commissioners, reminder once again that in your drive are the motions. So that if we use those motions as a guide, that we're taking each school now individually, and we will populate the information that goes into the letter that will be sent to the school with the acceptance of the annual report. So the first school that we are looking at is ACES Technical Charter School. And they have a VISTA score of 41, and they are a traditional school with a 70.5 overall rating. Commissioner Burt?
Yeah, I mean, I just support what's in the motion draft. It's satisfactory and just recognize those two parts. I just wanted to give a quick, one thing I noticed in this annual report and from the last time Dr. Campbell was up here was I was disappointed in hearing about the kind of students that the school was trying to attract, but then looking at the demographics and it wasn't quite matching up to the students that he was saying he wanted to serve. But these demographics this year really reflect, like I can see that that Dr. Campbell's efforts seem to be paying off in the demographics that are at the school. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Dr. Campbell and his team, because I know they were doing a bunch of work to recruit students that they were really trying to serve in their mission. And it looks as like from the demographics I can see, it looks like there has been a shift at the school in serving students who are more at risk. And I just wanted to make sure to acknowledge that and say I appreciate it.
Yeah, I have to agree, because that was a source of consternation for him, because I was there at his community input hearing, and the community that he wanted to serve and then what enrolled was so different than what he really was trying to focus on. So I will, that had to be accomplished through a lot of effort. So, and I appreciate that effort and concur.
Can I ask please that the motion be restated, because I'm wondering about the other things that are possible. Oh, I thought,
No, no one's made a
okay,
motion.
then I'm
yet.
not going to make one either, but I'm concerned. Sometimes like when you look at vistas and different things, you wonder, how does is this score even figured? When you look at things like, especially with this school, the negative growth. I know it's in there.
It's in the
I'm
motion.
looking, I know that, I'm looking at it, but I'm just saying it's just odd to me. Go, okay,
It is beyond us to,
try to figure that out.
right.
All right.
So if there is nothing else, Commissioner Burt?
I move that the PEC provide an annual report notice to ACES Technical Charter School indicating a notice of satisfactory performance and identify the unsatisfactory performance related to negative growth on pages 7 to 8 of the annual report and the organizational reporting requirement 3C on page 10. The unsatisfactory performance should be corrected by the next annual report.
Second. There's a motion by Commissioner Byrd, a second by Commissioner Gibson. There's no further.
Is- And so my comment on this would be, I don't consider this satisfactory performance. Just don't. When I look at all of the metrics that are being used, I don't consider this satisfactory. I consider this all the way around unsatisfactory and that they need to make corrective action. So as stated, there's no way I'm going to be supporting the motion.
So I'm going to say this very quickly. If Julia also in our drive is the list of schools and how we have designated them throughout the last 2 meetings. So this is very consistent with the notifications that we have given to other schools. So I don't feel the need to change that. So
I understand. And to that, I would say, if I may, Chair Gibson, that the range, that huge range that constitutes satisfactory, to me seems to be doing a disservice to schools and kids. There you go. That's all.
okay, thank you. Commissioner Beck?
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Oh,
on the motion.
no.
Chair Gibson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingham,
Can you come back to me just a second?
sure. Commissioner Klosterschilge,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Commissioner Armia,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Brower,
Yes.
Commissioner Manus,
Reluctant, yes.
Secretary Beck, yes. Commissioner Ingham,
Yes, with the same hesitance.
okay, there are 9 votes for, 1 vote against, the motion passes.
Thank you. We are now on to letter B, Albuquerque Bilingual Academy with a VISTA score of 51, a traditional designation with a 63 overall score.
So, I know how it just doesn't seem fair to Albuquerque Bilingual Academy that it's the same rating as the previous school. I mean, I can go ahead and read the motion and there can be discussion.
Okay.
So I'll move that we accept, here. I move that the PEC provide an annual report notice to Albuquerque Bilingual Academy indicating a notice of satisfactory performance and identify the unsatisfactory performance related to negative growth of student subgroup on page 7 of the annual report. The unsatisfactory performance should be corrected by the next annual report.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Carrillo and a second by Commissioner Taylor. Discussion?
Commissioner Armio,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes?
Commissioner Brower,
Yes.
Commissioner Manus,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Commissioner Klosterschilge,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingham,
Yes,
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Yes.
Chair Gibson,
Yes.
Secretary Beck, yes. There are 10 votes for, 0 votes against. The motion passes.
Thank you. We are now on to Albuquerque Institute for Mathematics and Science with a VISTA score of 92, a designation of excellence, but also insufficient data to score the first mission-specific goal. There was a lottery concern. There were lottery concerns that were largely addressed through the intervention ladder. Commissioner Burt?
Yeah, so this one, I mean, I would love nothing more than to just send an exemplary notice to the school. It is statistically, reputation-wise, the best high school in the entire state. I mean, rivaling very expensive private schools, in Albuquerque. And so it's frustrating to even have any kind of wavering. Like they are an exemplary school. So I'm frustrated by two things. I mean, this is what I was just talking to Commissioner Manus about. I mean, when I was a teacher, it was difficult to, it's hard to separate grading a student based off of their attitude, their effort versus what they actually do. And I feel like this with this school. So the mission goal not being complete is so frustrating, but it looks like they're killing it if they would just submit the correct documentation. So I'm struggling with, it is like they're doing all the things that they're supposed to be doing. And so do we give them, switch them from an exemplary performance overall just to a satisfactory just because they're difficult to communicate with? I mean, I wonder if there's a different avenue to deal with the communication levels outside of the annual report. Because I feel like there's a little bit more context in here. This is an exemplary school. They have exemplary results. I don't want to give them just a satisfactory because the communication back and forth is difficult. So that's kind of where I'm leaning on that. But the other thing that I want to say about in the motion, I think it's a little tone deaf to put the lottery issue in there because we did take care of that in a separate process as well. So I don't feel like putting it in here again makes a lot of sense. I think it's just that we're not even thinking, we're just doing it because it's on there and not thinking about what that actually looks like. We did this on a separate avenue through the intervention ladder. And so I wonder if there's a different way to identify it without saying, and it needs to be corrected by the next annual report kind of thing, because we already have that pathway. So I just wording it differently of acknowledging that there was this issue, but not saying, acting like it's the first time we're talking to them about it, if that makes sense.
In terms of the drafting of the,
motion.
oh, there was already a motion?
There's no motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought-
There's no motion yet.
I'll just tell you, the way that I drafted it is that the concern only went to the first one. You can rewrite it any way you want, but I was trying to think about that. So the concern doesn't link to the lottery.
Okay, I think it's the
Yeah.
identify, and maybe I can just reword it. I wonder if I can change it from the identify the unsatisfactory. I think that's where maybe change it to something like acknowledge or something, acknowledge something like that, just to switch it up.
Microphone, please, Chair Gibson.
Sorry.
Agree with Commissioner Burt. I would close the paren after mission-specific goal in the first paragraph that's bold. Doesn't need to be there. It's almost like a nitpick, that's there. I would just eliminate that where it says lottery concerns that were largely, because they were largely addressed, so it is like a nitpick. It says right here, Albuquerque. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I'm just, I should probably try to get more sleep. I'll change it to exemplary. I like it. I agree completely. There are some little things here and there. This is an exemplary school. And it's and there is no way on earth that I could in good conscience have this as satisfactory, a school of this caliber, and then 2 schools ago also have satisfactory.
Commissioner Brower?
Madam Chair, so I have a couple thoughts here. I appreciate what other commissioners have shared. I think this is a little bit of a tricky one because I would love to give the full-fledged school of excellence. They do great things. The team is doing great things. I personally think I've seen progress in terms of the communication as well. And I want to like give credit what credit is due. At the end of the day, though, this school has very specific policies and procedures for their students and their staff. And if they are not followed, if they're not corrected in terms of behaviors and stuff, things happen. There are consequences. For us, we have a framework that every school knows. They know that they have mission-driven indicators, that they should and ought to have data around, and that they matter. Not for us, but because they created these for their students. So I am good with satisfaction or satisfactory. I want to give credit where credit is due. Commissioner Creo, they're a school of excellence when it comes to academics. I will say student starting points are probably a little bit different than some of our other schools, so I just want to acknowledge that too. I'm really proud of the school's work in creating a new pathway with their lottery and enrollment practices. That's important. And I know it's important to the school to be acknowledged for the work that they're doing, just like we want them to do with their kids. But I think at the end of the day, we have a very specific, very clear performance framework. Commissioner Burt, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think I would characterize it more not in terms of we have an issue with their communication with us. I characterize it more with you didn't actually provide data on a specific part of our performance framework, and that's the issue that I see. And our charter schools are under the watch of our community at large to provide an innovative and unique opportunity for children. That's different than what they get at a district school. This school is a great example of doing great things for academic excellence. We also need them to do what they said they were going to do with their mission-driven indicators. And that's why I am good with satisfaction, and I'm fairly good with the motion as it sits. Thank you.
There's no motion.
It said director.
Oh, sorry. Commissioners and Commissioner Vice Chair Carrillo, I agree that this school is excellent. I would send my kid there in terms of the academics, and I think you have an agreement with the school. The agreement is for us to be able to analyze the mission-specific goals, and they have not provided a full set of information that would allow us to analyze them thoroughly. Similarly, I know that you all engaged in some agreements with their attorney and the school around allowing us to see how their lottery and enrollment process met expectations. And there's one final step that they have not closed the loop on, so we aren't certain that they have eliminated the teacher recommendations for students to attend. So I would say until they close that loop, I don't feel like they have complied with what you are expecting of them and what my office has been charged with analyzing and reporting back to you. Thank you.
Commissioner Carrillo.
Excuse me, this is kind of to Julia. So I still think exemplary is the right way to go. And I saw you just typing there and in the motion acknowledging the concern related to 4A. So since that would be part of the motion, I'm going to move. So on the motion, you'll have a note at the bottom. Do I read that as well? Okay. I move that the PEC provide an annual report notice to Albuquerque Institute for Mathematics and Science indicating a notice of exemplary performance and identify the failure to provide sufficient data to allow the first mission-specific goal to be scored as unsatisfactory performance on page 11 of the annual report that should be corrected by the next annual report, and acknowledge a concern related to 4.A rights of students, and that's the lottery, from 2022 to 2023 that is being addressed through the intervention of ladder.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Creo and a second by Commissioner Burt to Commissioner Brower?
I take umbrage with exemplary. I just don't understand how we just moved from the satisfactory to exemplary. This sets a precedent that we only care about academics. And I care about academics, don't get me wrong, but we also are in the business of innovative and unique schools that are doing their jobs. And we don't have a very important piece of data, Commissioner Carrillo, and you're setting a precedent that I don't think that feels really good. And so I know you're not going to take a friendly amendment on this, but I really do feel like it behooves us to have this as satisfactory, and we continue to work with this school to ensure that they're doing what they're supposed to do, which is to provide data to the CSD and then to us around their mission-driven indicators. And when you don't do that, for whatever reason, I don't know how that's exemplary. I just don't. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to support exemplary because they did provide data. They didn't do it in the way in which their mission was written, but we can see from the data that they provided that their students are excelling overall on the PSAT. Like, I mean, absolutely killing it compared to the average New Mexico student. So they're still like, I feel like when it's consistently known as the best school in New Mexico and competitive across the country, for us to say that it's not and is just satisfactory because they didn't provide the data in the way in which they should have this year, that I think once again, I think there's tone deafness to do that. And so it is an exemplary school in almost every single aspect, but I do expect these two pieces to be corrected by next year. If they weren't corrected by next year, I would have more of a concern with continually giving them that overall. But I also think, again, that this can be corrected in a different avenue outside of the annual report. And I think if we need to move to the ladder of intervention on the mission-specific goal data being provided correctly, I feel more comfortable with that rather than, I mean, this is incredible data. Like it's incredible data. It is the best school in the entire state. And I won't let the one piece on their mission goal and then the one piece on the other part that we are taking action on to derail the entire pool. So that's where I am standing with supporting
I have a
it.
procedural question, and then Mike had his hand up. Procedurally, does this mean that Commissioner Brower, did you just propose an amendment? And what's procedurally, I don't remember what happens.
I wasn't sure. I didn't think he actually proposed a friendly amendment.
No, I did not. And for the record, this is not going to hold my vote back. But I just think that I just take umbrage with saying it's excellent. And I hear everything that was just said. It's just, and I'm not trying to be a principled person here, but I just think that, there's consistency that matters to me. And I just stated that I knew you weren't going to take it. So,
Well, Michael was, yeah, I just had the procedural question to ask. Michael was next.
Sure, Taylor?
Yeah, thank you. I tend to agree with what Commissioner Brower is talking about because, I see that the exemplary should not have any ticks against them, in my mind. There should be no box unchecked. And the idea of giving them a satisfactory overall rating might be one of those things that make sure that we have that information next year, rather than wait another year and see if we get it, see if we improve communications and so forth. So I feel, again, you're absolutely right. Academics is incredible. I hate to even be having this discussion about a school that's doing so well, so, but I do there's that check in my heart that says, hey, if you want exemplary, make sure you get this stuff to us. Get it all to us the way we asked.
So, I'm kind of caught in the middle with this because I want to fully acknowledge the academic excellence of the school. I do. But the performance framework is the critical piece of the contract that schools have with us. And the mission-specific goal is core to that performance framework. We just spent a week digging into mission-specific goals, and the mechanism for reporting to us and how we're responding to it is this annual report. It doesn't sit outside of anything. And when the school comes on the new contract, when they do, they're not meeting their mission goal, I think can have significant consequences to what tier they're going to be, and that hopefully they pay attention to this. My biggest challenge is the lateness of these annual reports at this point in time, so that I feel less necessary to dig into this one and hope that we can continue the communications for next year. It's almost like, well, it's March of '24 and you're telling me I did a bad thing back last year when I'm closing out this year. That's my only big issue with this. So I'm going to reluctantly support this as it sits. Commissioner Burt?
I would also say in the future, when any school is non-responsive to providing their mission goals, that should be a letter of concern then. Like that should come to us. The school's being unresponsive about their data. We should put them on the ladder of intervention and send out a letter of concern about unresponsiveness to the data, not waiting until we get the annual report and then being like, oh, they weren't like it's way too retroactive. And like I said, this is an effort thing, or this is a communication thing. It's not a results thing. Like, and I think I just feel like the issue, when you look at the school holistically, every single thing on their whole thing is green. It's not just academics. Financially, they are good. Organizationally, they are good. It is the lottery and not providing the data in the correct way. They did provide data, they did not provide it correctly. And if they were unresponsive, we should be proactive in, hey, they're not doing it, and move through that process. But I don't want to do it now.
And hopefully the new data system will help manage that better, hopefully, so that we can do this and get on it as quickly as we can. Commissioner Ingham?
So, not really understanding why they were unable to provide the data, and just wanting to know, is that they didn't care enough to give us the data in the right direction, or it was unavailable to them and they could not? That's what I'm trying to get to, is if it is, I mean, it's fairly clear to me that the evidence that they're satisfying that goal is pretty clear that they are. It's just not aggregated to the individuals or something like that. I can't hold them back for something they were unable to fix. If they were just doing it out of stubbornness, I would go, I mean, because I can imagine after their interactions with their attorney that there could be a matter of stubbornness. But in my estimation, I just need to know, was their ability to provide the data in the correct manner inhibited by circumstances beyond their control?
And I think at this point in time, it's too late to start asking those questions at this point in time. You know, I think that was absolutely a question that should have been asked a long time ago when the data was first requested. But at this point in time, you know, I think that, yeah, but I appreciate and I think that's something that's on us to make sure we get those answers before we get to this point. Yeah. Commissioner Beck? I keep thinking there was a motion. There was a motion. Yeah. I don't think so. I don't see anyone else's hand up.
Okay. Okay. Here we go.
I thought I lost my mind again. I said, I don't think so.
I've lost it a long time ago. Commissioner Brower.
Yes.
Actually, Commissioner Manus.
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Armijo,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingham,
Yes.
Commissioner Klostersilich,
Yes.
um, Chair Gibson,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Secretary Beck, yes. There are 10 votes for, there are 0 votes against, the motion passes.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to ask commissioners now if we could take a 10-minute break.
Yes, one quick thing to say, just really quickly. I would love it if Commissioner Burt's suggestion was taken up in the future, that we somehow can get this information to notice schools much sooner.
Well, I think we said
Yeah.
the data
Yeah.
system should be
So-
able to help us.
Let's,
We are now on to Aldo Leopold Charter School with a Vista score of 81, a designation of excellence overall with a 78.4 score, and there were organizational concerns, one going back 3 years.
In the motions draft, why didn't we include some of the other, does not meet standards components? Because we only included the,
I tried to, 1C, 2A through 2C.
oh, okay.
I tried to, on
Yeah.
every motion, I
Got
tried to
it, got it,
include
got it, got
every
it. Yeah, I
rep.
see
So
it
if I
now.
missed it,
I know.
I think for this school, it's a little bit different because there's more red flags than the previous school, even though they are designated as excellence, they have more concerns, in my opinion.
Yeah, I kind of agree, and also the fact that they're not above the state averages. They're sitting, even though they may be above most of the districts, they don't sit the same as the prior school.
I would tend to agree with both of you. Yeah, it's not the same at all as the previous school. And if that's,
Do a motion?
let me go ahead and get to that page. Here we go. I move that the PEC provide an annual report notice to Aldo Leopold Charter School indicating a notice of satisfactory performance and identify the unsatisfactory performance related to 1C, rights of students with disabilities, 2A through 2C regarding financial and audit concerns on page 11 of the annual report. The unsatisfactory performance should be corrected by the next annual report.
Second. There's a motion by Commissioner Creo, a second by Commissioner Gibson. Any further discussion? Commissioner Beck?
Chair Gibson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingham,
Yes.
Commissioner Klosterschilage,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Commissioner Manus,
Yes.
Commissioner Brower,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Armino,
Yes.
Secretary Beck, yes. There are 10 votes for, 0 votes against. The motion passes.
Thank you. We are now on to Estancia Valley Classical Academy with a Vista score of 71. They have a spotlight designation and a 69.25 overall score. Commissioner Burt.
I have a question, definitely before motion's made. So, I did see in the, and I may muck up what I'm about, the exact document, but we got the like audit report findings for the next year. Was it the next year after this report came out? So what my question is this the stage in which we should engage, like knowing, I mean, this year, exemplary, sure. But knowing that there's like serious concerns about the financials and having that information like in the back of my mind is confusing me right now about the right process to follow.
Sure.
I'll just tell you the process that I was considering in doing a draft motion. Let's just take a school that had a condition. Today, sitting here today, they probably are doing well enough that you would take a different decision today. But the conversation you had previously, in particular, because these reports are delayed, was you're looking at a delayed report and it's a snapshot at that moment of the delay. You are going to have updated reports and are working through a process to get these much more current. So I was feeling like you guys were saying, these are delayed, we're looking at them, we know they're from the past, and you're gonna look at them again. So those two things weighed in my mind.
Yeah, because I was thinking, I mean, if I'm looking at, I think that what I'm struggling with is like there's a record of performance. And I think this is part of the record of performance, right? Like that school year, that record of performance for that school year is something. I think it's just hard in the back of my mind to know what's coming or like I think that's what I'm trying to wrap my brain around. And maybe there's just a different, yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm struggling with. So I guess if we're looking at, record of performance this school year, then yeah, I would support the motion as is. If it's just like, if it's better to isolate for this school year, how the school performed, and then take the net, like when there's an issue, take it into account during that appropriate time.
We can indicate for 2022, 2023 in the motion.
Okay.
For me, I struggle a little bit with the excellence because and I know it's not true growth, but they're below in most of the areas, and their four-year grad rate was below the state. So for a school that's excellent, I think their grad rate should be up, at least to the, so I think it's closer to the previous school that I kind of support the satisfactory with this because I don't think they're sitting in the same position as our first school. I don't.
I-
Commissioner Ingham?
Okay, I'm gonna acknowledge my ignorance. I can't understand how they could have such negative growth and still have their performance at the level that they, or their proficiency performance at the, where they're at. I can't, that doesn't compute to me. And
And once again, it's really not growth with this, but I am concerned. We looked at the school right before and gave them the satisfactory because they sat below the state in a number of areas. And this school, and in particular, that four-year grad rate. Commissioner Burt?
Yeah, I guess I voted for the other school to get exempt or satisfactory because they did not meet the financial, that part of the framework. Like they earned a does not meet in their annual report. This school did meet they did meet the standard for, like the overall rating of the last school does not meet standard. That's why I voted for them to drop down. This school is a spotlight school. They meet the standard. So it's making me, I have a little bit more pause, and it's more of, there's schools that we gave exemplary to that were lower in the state accountability system that scored lower than this school that we did give exemplary to. So I think for me, it's identifying the areas. I don't mind listing out the graduation rate that's below the state average. I think that's fair to list it out, but I think I like calling those pieces out of it, but I think it makes sense for this academic year, and I'm going to keep putting it in my own mind because that's what's conflicting me, to keep them as like acknowledging that they were a spotlight school. But then saying, but we still expect your growth and your graduation rate. We would still like to see those come up. I think my reasoning for voting for the other school that was a spotlight
Was excellence.
is a school of excellence to drop down a level was that they did not meet their overall standard on the framework.
Okay. Our discussion didn't even cover that at all. So that's where I'm conflicted because of that discussion. It gives me some pause on the other school, but that's, I'm trying to figure that out. Commissioner Carrillo?
So, correct me if I'm wrong, exemplary is the absolute highest. Then there's excellence. No.
Exemplary satisfactory.
How did we end up doing that and not having something, just because of what the word exemplary means versus what the satisfactory means? Exemplary, you're setting the example for everybody else is where they should be. It was just, this is what it is. I'm not, okay. So in this particular case, then, I could not say exemplary. I would want the motion changed to satisfactory, given the different indicators, the yellows and the red. And I think it's a totally different situation than that other school.
Commissioner Beck?
Yeah, I concur. I don't see this as an exemplary report here. You have negative growth. You're below state and district and graduation. And in my opinion, to Vice Chair's point, we really only have three categories. Is this satisfactory? Yeah, it is. Is it exemplary? I think if we went the exemplary route, this would be watering it down a little bit. And I don't, I want exemplary to be exemplary. And we do have schools that are, and they should be, distinguished and separated out. So if we have three categories, I would certainly put this in satisfactory. Thank you.
I don't see any other bunch of hands. Oh,
Commissioner Ingham?
Okay, Commissioner Burt, you said that we had other schools that we gave an exemplary rating to on an annual report just like this last time?
There's a chart.
Okay, then Okay,
I almost want to take the last motion back. I know, me too.
All right, I'm going to make a motion then if I don't see any other hands up. All right. This is for Estancia Valley Classical Academy. I move that I'm going to sneeze. Thank you. I move that the PEC provided an annual report notice to Estancia Valley Classical Academy indicating a notice of satisfactory performance for 2022-23. And the working to meet criteria on the second school-specific goal regarding history grades, a graduation rate that is below state standards, and identify the unsatisfactory performance related regarding 5B, accounting principles on page 11 of the annual report. Okay. May I continue on or? All right. That's fine.
That's fine.
And now I can go? I'll start again because of where it is. I move that the PEC provide an annual report notice to Estancia Valley Classical Academy indicating a notice of satisfactory performance for the 2022-23 years and identify the following unsatisfactory performance. They're working to meet criteria on the second, I just see typing happening. So on the second school-specific goal regarding history grades, a graduation rate that is below state standards, and regarding 5B accounting principles on page 11 of the annual report. The unsatisfactory performance should be corrected by the next annual report.
I second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Carrillo and a second by Commissioner Beck. Commissioner Beck.
Commissioner Armijo,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Brower,
Yes.
Commissioner Manus,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Commissioner Klasicevich,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingham, Vice Chair Carrillo,
Yes.
Did not hear Commissioner Ingham's vote, please.
Commissioner Ingham,
yes,
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Yes.
Chair Gibson,
Yes.
Secretary Beck, yes. There are 10 votes for, 0 votes against. The motion passes.
Thank you. And we are now on to Mission Achievement and Success Charter School with the Vistas Spotlight.
Oh, we have Las Montañas next, don't we?
Sorry,
That's all right.
my finger moved too fast.
It's okay.
We are now on to Las Montañas Charter High School with a Vista score of 36. They have a CSI designation for graduation, and they have a 55.5 overall score. Commissioner Burt?
The only question I have is this school also just a CSI school in general? Because they're very, very low, like the bottom 5% of schools automatically get CSI, not just the graduation rate. And I actually think this school might not be, I don't think it's just graduation. And that's my only question, is I believe they might also be in just the bottom 5% overall with the low Vista score.
I'm not 100% sure. I mean, they are a re-engagement school, so that grad rate
Right.
is always going to be a problem.
But I don't know if it's, I don't think they're just.
But they're
graduation
CSI
overall.
yes.
Okay, so
She's correct.
that's
So, yeah,
because of, if it was just the graduation rate,
correct.
I feel like I would give it a satisfactory and then list the thing. But I think because it's overall, it's very, very low in just in general. I don't feel comfortable giving a satisfactory rating this school at this time.
Commissioner Carrillo.
Agree with Commissioner Beck. I think it should be a no, Burt. Burt. I know, I know.
I don't think.
Not even remotely. I would agree with Commissioner Burt. I think it should be a notice of unsatisfactory performance in looking at all of the deficiencies. Were you back?
I'm back.
Beck's next. Is his hand up?
So,
I concur with both Vice Chair Carrillo and Commissioner Burt, that it looks like the CSI designation goes beyond the four-year graduation rate. It would be hard for me to equate these data points in with other satisfactory schools. I just don't see that. So that I agree with them.
okay.
I'm not making a motion.
Commissioner Creo?
And the grad rate's not the only thing that concerns me. It's this serious drop in reading as being the core of absolutely everything. Yeah.
Commissioner Burt?
So I do know, although, the school, I would, let me look at the draft. Okay, so I know we took off graduation, and generally, I would say with a re-engagement school, their four-year graduation rate being significantly lower state average doesn't concern me as much, but I did just look it up, and their growth in graduation is down as well. And so I would like to keep, the graduation rate on there, but the growth in, like, put it as the growth in graduation rate. Is it, I'm okay with it being lower because they're re-engaging schools, but they still need to, yes, they went down 5 percentage points, so that's concerning to me.
Are we ready?
Call out reading specifically on page 6? No, okay. We are ready if that change was made there. It needs to say unsatisfactory.
The second,
Okay, sorry. Okay, so here we go. Yeah. I move that the PEC provide an annual report notice of unsatisfactory performance for 2022-2023 school year to Las Montañas Charter High School related to the following unsatisfactory performance. The Vistas designation of CSI, the negative growth of graduation rate, the negative growth on pages 6 and 7 of the annual report, and 1B, the state assessment requirement, and 2A through 2D regarding financial and audit concerns on page 10 of the annual report. The unsatisfactory performance should be corrected by the next annual report.
second. There's a motion by Commissioner Creo and a second by Commissioner Gibson. Any further discussion? Commissioner Beck?
Commissioner Costa-Silage,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Commissioner Armijo,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Brower,
Yes.
Commissioner Manus,
Yes.
Chair Gibson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingham,
Yes.
and Secretary Beck, yes. There are 10 votes for, there are no votes against. The motion passes.
Thank you. We are now on to Mission Achievement and Success Charter School with the Vistas Spotlight designation of 78 and a 70. Okay. Spotlight of 78 and a 70 for 2 locations with an 89, which I'm assuming is MAS 1, and an 85 for overall scores.
So I think for this school, it's really like easy for me. It's incredible. I mean, I so appreciate that this school keeps year over year defying the narrative that because your students look a certain way, because your students have a certain background, that you're gonna have trouble getting them to grow. You're gonna have trouble getting them to succeed. And I love that the school knows its students, provides the supports, and has outcomes to show that those supports are helping. So I think it's really like to have two schools on this report and both of them be is spotlight schools and have very high Vista scores. I'm obviously supportive of calling out 5B. Any red is a concern, but I'm so grateful we have this school in our portfolio to continue defying the odds year over year and helping to get rid of the narrative that if you have a certain group of kids, you're just automatically gonna have trouble on any accountability system.
I agree with Commissioner Burt. And I would just encourage anyone, I think you were going to go last year and couldn't at the very last minute to it was like a revival meeting. That's the equivalent of like a robing ceremony or something like that. It was just an incredible experience. The feeling that this school has, that everyone for each other, it was just really something. I agree with the exemplary. I agree with Ms. Burt.
That their college signing day, is that what?
They call it the college signing day. It's like career day because
Yeah.
they boast a 100%, not just like a graduation, but that every kid has a plan. You know, you cannot leave that school. They're told this, you know, when they're freshmen, you must have a plan of action. It can be you're working for your dad's business. It can be you're going to the army, opening a beauty salon, whatever it is, but you have a plan the minute you're out of here. And it's a really special environment. And speaking to what, you know, Commissioner Brower said earlier, innovation. They're doing it differently. They're knocking it out of the park, attendance, all these things.
No other discussion? Okay,
Rebecca,
I
you
know.
want to make a motion?
I'm pulling it up. I know. Commissioner Burt.
I move that the PEC provide an annual report notice for the 22-23 school year to Mission Achievement Success Charter School, indicating a notice of exemplary performance and identify the unsatisfactory performance regarding 5B accounting principles on page 12 of the annual report. The unsatisfactory performance should be corrected by the next annual report.
I second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Burt and a second by Commissioner Brower.
Commissioner Manus,
Yes.
Commissioner Brower,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Armijo,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingham,
Yes.
Commissioner Klasicillage,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Yes.
Chair Gibson,
Yes.
Secretary Beck, yes. There are 10 votes for, no votes against. The motion passes. Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
there are 10 votes for, 0 votes against. The motion passes.
Thank you. We are now on to Pecos Cyber Academy with a Vista score of 43, a traditional designation, and an overall score of 34. And they do have a condition as well. Commissioner Carrillo?
I have a question regarding the governance performance, and, you know, thinking about, maybe it was at the bottom of that page there, but Missy, you might know the answer to this. What was their shortcoming on governance requirement?
Commissioner Gibson, Chair Gibson, Commissioner Carrillo, they were they had a few, under 5 members. They had not correctly reported member changes to us.
Thank you. And I regard that as very important because as we've said as I've said in previous meetings, you know, where you have great boards, often you have great schools, administrators, accountability and everything else. And not having the requirement, I mean, sure, they were able to meet a quorum, but not having 5 members, I think is an important deficiency. So I would support this as it's written.
Question, is
Yeah,
there,
go
a
ahead.
is there a reason why the growth and the graduation were not reported? Is there a reason why that is? Am I reading that right? What's that?
That's not my area.
Director Chavez, is there a reason why those numbers weren't reported in Vista? Do you know? The growth and the
Commissioner
graduation
Beck, I
rates?
believe there was problems with the school's data in Vista. So we reported what we were able to obtain.
Well, because I know I've been challenged with that as well. I kept going back to look and I couldn't find it. And it's like, how come? And I made the assumption that there was dialogue going on back between the school and assessment to fix it. But my understanding is at some point in time, the conversation's over. And PED says, this is our final determination. Because I'm challenged to accept a report with a final score when it may not be the final score.
Yeah, because I'd have a hard time saying unsatisfactory if we don't know growth or graduation.
I don't know, because they won't report anything.
It seems like because the PED gave them a designation, I don't know if we should count on them changing anything. I feel like they've already moved on to the next year. I don't know if they're gonna do anything. I think there's some, well, at first I in my head, I saw this one didn't have the growth. And I was like, that's weird, why? But then I also saw Rio Gaffa and Thrive later, they don't have, but then I was like, oh yeah, it's because they weren't schooled both the year before.
Right.
But then this school, yeah, is very confusing, but it feels like because they did give a designation, they have a score. They have a designation of traditional, they have a final Vista score. I don't know if we need to necessarily belabor it, but it is it's frustrating to not be able to evaluate that, but we also, I think we know, and the school, it's not in our control that we do or do not have that. So I'm not as stressed about it. And I mean, they got a traditional designation, and I don't know if
but I was unclear. I wasn't sure whether they did have a final score because it has.
on the website.
So
is
Chair Gibson, Commissioner
It wasn't
Burt,
the last one I looked.
Dr. Russell's going to come down and give you the full story if that's what you would like, if you want to.
Well, I think the only thing we need to
No, I
know
don't
is
think so.
the PED still looking at this, and is there a possibility it could change or not? That's
Yeah,
the,
that's
just
why,
a yes
that's
or
why
no.
we need Dr. Russell.
But
we don't need a
full
story.
We just need the
So I
answer
don't
to
have that answer at this moment. So if you want to, hold on, she's on her way.
Okay. It wasn't.
Last meeting.
Yeah.
It's up right now. It
Okay,
identifies
we're good.
traditional and a 43. Previously, when there were several schools that weren't there, but what I understood is that CSD could see some data that we couldn't see on the public-facing website. Because I followed up a couple times and just confirmed that CSD could see it, but it's up now.
Why don't you make a motion? You're allowed. Satisfactory. What do you think? Go ahead. You don't want to? I think KT should.
Is he awake? Tell me he's awake.
No, I think it's published now, so I think we're good.
I move that the PEC provide an annual report notice for the 22-23 school year to PECO Cyber Academy, indicating a notice of satisfactory performance and identifying the unsatisfactory performance related to the working to meet criteria on both mission-specific goals and 2.A governance requirement on page 9 of the annual report. Unsatisfactory performance should be corrected by the next annual report.
I second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Burt and a second by Commissioner Beck. If there's no further discussion, Commissioner Beck?
Chair Gibson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingham,
Deservedly, yes.
Commissioner Kloster-Shillage, Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Commissioner
Sorry,
Nolan,
I did not hear Commissioner Kloster-Chilich.
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Commissioner Manus,
Yes.
Commissioner Brower,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Armijo,
Yes.
Secretary Beck, yes. There are 10 votes for and 0 votes against. The motion passes.
Thank you. And now we are on to the second piece of PECO Cyber, which is the condition document. So I'm going to ask for just a moment.
So I was wondering if I could get like if there's any way, Director Chavis, if you could give like a synopsis for us on what their condition has been looking like from your observations.
Okay, so this is, again, over a year old, and the lead person on this is no longer working here. But if you will look at the document provided to you all, beginning on page, what is that? Sorry. Where their culturally and linguistically responsive curriculum plan for the school for 22-23 is, it looks like they have made some effort to comply with the conditions by providing dates in which they have met with the equity team to create some curriculum that is responsive, and they list the people that are responsive. Additionally, they claim that everything is completed and ongoing in terms of the implementation of the curriculum and the school's commitment. And they provide links to all of the source documents. This will be very much like our data system where we want people to upload. You should be able to access all of the information by clicking on those hot links.
So can I just, for a second, I'm going to say that quite a few of those links were invalid. I tried, and now I didn't know whether it was because I was using my iPad, and so therefore it's a mobile and it wouldn't, but I couldn't open them. So that was somewhat disconcerting to me. Okay, yeah, I couldn't. Okay, that's all I wanted to say, so maybe on my desktop I can.
So the CSD finds that they completed the requirements under this condition. Thank you.
If I could.
Commissioner Burt?
So one of the things that, thank you for that, because that's what it did look like, when I saw just the chart at the end, it was ongoing, completed, ongoing, or just completed. And I do think they did do what I think was the spirit of the condition. I don't think this condition in particular I think it is one that can be completed and we can move on from. And I'll just say, I actually am very, I did look over their but one of the coolest parts that I saw is if you review their readiness assessment from the first year to the next year, number one, I'm grateful that the school is very honest in that first readiness assessment. And they really did identify places where they were not, they weren't doing this yet, which definitely did make me feel better about us voting on it as a condition because we got the sense of it, but that showed like we were on spot. But then if you look at the next one, they're making so much progress. And I was very much encouraged that they hired Dr. Holly to come in and do the trainings with the teachers. 100% of the teachers attended trainings with Dr. Holly. I hope that they saw this practice being meaningful to their school. I hope that it's something that they feel like was a good step for their school as well. Because from the data that I see, just from the documentation, not the data, but the documentation shows that a lot of work was done on it. And it does make me happy that it seems like they did move the needle on CLRI in particular. And my hope is that we see improved outcomes year over year. Like that's what ideally we see the academic outcomes continue to increase, and that it like as this being an input. And so I think because it was like an input condition, I'm okay kind of closing it out and moving forward to where CSD, this isn't something they're reporting to CSD every year. But I'm also open if you all think that we need to see like a little bit more consistency. I'm okay wanting to see like really making sure it's ingrained in the school culture and it wasn't just like a checkbox that they had to do and they're just moving on from it. So I'm kind of open either way. But that's kind of my thoughts on it. And I did want to just say I think I'm very happy with what the school has done up to this point.
I mean, I have to agree. That first self-assessment was disturbing. It was, but I do appreciate the fact that they were that brutally honest, because it was like, oh my God, it's like, it was not good, but they have made progress. The only thing I'm not sure I saw, and some of the links I couldn't open, but I know we did discuss with them how they're incorporating some of this into their curriculum, and I didn't see that as much. And that was maybe just an update on that, and everything else, as long as because I know it's ongoing, I think I can hopefully trust them that it is ongoing, but I didn't see the curriculum embedment as much as I thought it should be. I did see little snippets of it, but I didn't think it was maybe the work on it as much as it should be, but I'm fine. Yeah. I'm kind of not happy I got access to the self-assessment. Yeah. Director, did you have your hand up? I'm sorry.
Did. I just wanted to say that I think because we are so late in the year, we're planning, or we already have. Lucy, do you know if Pecos already had a site visit?
Yes, it was February 6th.
Okay, so we continue to look at this during the site visit for this school year. And so any motion that you make, we've already continued to look at this issue.
Have they turned in their form yet, though? Or did you just ask about it? They probably haven't.
So if the deadline for them to complete the form is at the end of the year, no, they haven't.
Okay. Yeah. So,
Want me to do it?
so maybe we just change to, well, okay, we can close them out after this next report. So we'll do, yeah, okay.
I move that the PEC accept the condition report from Pecos Cyber Academy and indicate to the school that the PEC finds that the school is making progress towards the condition and should continue to report annually on the condition.
Second. There's a motion by Commissioner Beck and a second by Commissioner Gibson. Any further discussion? Secretary Beck?
Commissioner Armijo?
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Brower?
Yes.
Commissioner Manus?
Yes.
Commissioner Burt?
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen-Sillage? Commissioner Ingham?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Yes.
Chair Gibson,
Yes.
Secretary Beck, yes. There are 10 votes for, 0 votes against. The motion passes.
Thank you. We are now on to Rio Grande Academy of Fine Arts with a Vista score of 51, a traditional designation, and an overall score of 75.5.
Tim, is there something you want to share with the group?
I apologize.
Yeah, I mean, I'll support what's in the motion. I'm happy that, you know, in its first year to get the tradition, like, to not have issues to showing, you know, showing that they're on the right pathway makes me happy that for a brand new school. I can make a motion if no one's.
Sure.
I move that the PEC provide an annual report notice to Rio Grande Academy of Fine Arts indicating a notice of satisfactory performance for the 22-23 school year and identify the unsatisfactory performance related to 3C staffing credentials, 5E managing grant funding concerns on page 7 of the annual report. The unsatisfactory performance should be corrected by the next annual report.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Burt and a second by Commissioner Carrillo. If there's no further discussion, Secretary Beck?
Commissioner Burt? Commissioner Burt?
Yes.
Commissioner Manus? Commissioner Manus?
Yes.
Commissioner Brower?
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Armijo?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carrillo?
Yes.
Chair Gibson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ingham?
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen,
Yes.
Secretary Beck, yes. There are 10 votes for, no votes against. The motion passes.
Thank you. We are now on to the Albuquerque Sign Language Academy with a Vista score of 32, a CSI designation for their graduation, which does not appear to consider the school's population, and an overall score of 53.5. And I do believe it was their head administrator, Rafe Martinez, did come and he did that during public comment, correct?
It was last month.
And, you know, obviously
Session.
quite upset that given the population that this school serves, that the state gave them that designation because their students stay until they're 22 and they don't have a graduation rate because of that. And they got a designation by the state of comprehensive support because they have a poor graduation rate. So it was really unnecessary. I know. I know.
If there are no comments here, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion. Does anyone have anything they want to? I think, did you hear what Patty said also?
About,
It's not a normal school. You don't.
no, it's not a normal school. I just have questions.
Sure.
So I read in the report that they don't have so I know like the model of the school is to have able hearing students also attend with their siblings. Do those students, are they not allowed to go to the high school? Because I never knew that, but I remember reading in the report that they don't have, that their from 9th to 12th grade is 100% special education. So do they not allow the siblings to continue once they get to high school? I just didn't know that.
I believe that's the fact, but I'm not 1000%.
Because that's what, I think there's like a little bit more context in there.
For
Because
the scores.
Right. And once again, I think the school wasn't a CSI just for graduation rate. I think their Vista score is low enough overall. But once again, I think there's some oddness in how growth gets calculated and how things happen for this school versus a more traditional school. But I still have I still want, knowing they have a special population, I still want to maintain a bar of rigor. Like every student can grow, every student can hit targets. And if they're at a level of disability in which they're receiving supports or they're not able to take the assessment, then they're not included in this, or they should be included. Like if they're on an IEP and they receive supports for assessment, we still should be expecting them to maintain growth, still expect them to working towards proficiency, regardless, because that's the whole point is I don't want to have a lower bar for students because they're in special ed for hearing, like they still should be able to read and do math at a proficient level. So,
so my understanding, and I could be wrong on this, is with that high school thing, that they do have they have the waiver from enrollment, the lottery, so that the siblings can get in, but that's primarily so that they can become language fluent.
yeah, I
So
love
that they
it, and
don't
I
need
love
it.
the model.
So
Yeah.
then when they go into high school. So I think that's it, but Mr. Martinez did contact myself and actually the Deputy Director Russell and ask if he could actually be the spotlight for next month so that he can talk about how they do what they do and the rigor that is in their and the research that goes behind. So I'm not saying, excuse me, but I think there needs to be a level of understanding because I think you can go to other types of non-traditional schools that we have. So I think that would be helpful. But that's not to excuse any of this. Yeah.
You're correct. It does say CSI overall, and we could add that here if you wanted to, consistent with how you've done other schools. I just thought there were questions, so wasn't positive you wanted it in there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open. I think what I'm struggling with is I think there's like two dynamics going on in my head, knowing that this is a very special student population that's predominantly deaf or hard of hearing. And I think that that is something the school needs to take into account. But also in the same, on the other side of my brain is, that, so your supports for the students should be lifting them up to a point where they're graduating. And the graduation rate, I'm not worried about. I am not concerned by that at all. But I do have questions on if they don't have if the siblings, the general ed siblings are not in the school anymore for high school, if that's accurate. But other than that, I'm not worried about graduation rate. I'm not concerned with that, but I am worried about growth and proficiency still for this school, because that's the point of special education and IEPs, is to lift up students to where they're still successful compared to their peers, not compared to each other, but to compared to able-bodied students. You want to lift them up to where they're at the same level. So I want to balance understanding that, but also every student should be you should be wanting to get proficiency in math, regardless of the ability of the student coming into your school. So there's a balance in there that I'm struggling with.
Yeah. I mean, because this is a school that's not just deaf, hard of hearing. It is a school whose students have multiple disabilities. And I know the level of support that's there. This is also a school that used to have a waiver from state assessments. They did not have to do it because there was an assessment that they could take. So I don't know if that's part of this, because they don't have that waiver any longer. When new administration came in, I think Alan was the acting director. We had several conversations with the cabinet secretary and PED legal, and they would not continue the waiver from state assessments. So that was disappointing. So I think that can, I struggle at this point in time, knowing what that school does, and I don't know why this looks like this, and I don't know, you know, in my mind and my heart, they're doing satisfactory performance. It doesn't show on this paper, and that's where I struggle. And I wish, in a way, he had been our spotlight in the month before, because that might have been able to answer some of these questions. I don't know, but it might have. Because I don't know if it's because of the assessment and challenges that are involved. I don't know. It was before, and that's why they were wavered from it. And there was consideration in the state accountability system. There's no consideration for them in the state accountability system any longer. Commissioner Manus?
I guess my biggest concern, I understand all the challenges that they might face. My biggest concern is just the amount of negative growth, even in the subgroups. And it's just widespread.
You know, it's,
And I mean, I mean, where I see is, I know this school has, I mean, it was like 60-something% students with disabilities. But also, students with disabilities have accommodations for testing. And that's supposed to then still show their growth. It's still supposed to, they're supposed to have the accommodations that allow them to be able to succeed in their individual growth in the same way as any student who's not on an IEP. If if they have multiple disabilities, or they're at a level of special ed where the assessment really, they're just unable to do the assessment, they don't do it. That's in their IEP, that they don't take the assessment, or they do an alternative assessment, and it's not included in this data. So I also am concerned that any student who took this assessment should have had the accommodations and supports behind them to still show academic growth. And students who are at the severe level of disability, to where we're like, oh, we shouldn't even be looking at assessments for that student, they shouldn't be on this report. My assumption is they're not, that they didn't take the assessment, and they're not a part of this report. So I think, once again, it's like this balance that we always have with schools who are so mission driven, that we also have to, you got to do both. You have to be able to do the whole child, and academic growth is a part of the whole child as well. And so I'm very much struggling with this school, because I do believe it's a unique school. They do incredible work. We know that. But outcomes are important at the end of the day too. And I wouldn't want students going to this school that are being promised to have all these supports, because they're such a specialized school, but then they're still not achieving academics at the end of at the end of their school term at this school. Scares me.
Commissioner Ingham?
The one thing you said that bothers me is that you said, I assume that they're getting that support and that they're not being assessed. And because knowing that population pretty intimately, there are levels that there's only so much support you can give in an assessment to a student that has that cognitive ability is not there. So I know that school has accepted a huge population of very, very involved students, not just hearing impaired students. And I think that basically, in some ways, the name doesn't quite match. My sister worked for them, was one of the founding members, and she ended up leaving because they kind of changed their directive from that. And this was before this new administration, but their population is a very involved population. And so I don't know if, when you make that assumption, I'm not sure you can make that, honestly. I'm sorry.
Well, and I think if there are concerns about that, that can be hopefully addressed and put aside with the spotlight, that's not part of this at this point in time, except looking at, I acknowledge there's a struggle looking at this data, which is the only thing we have to work with at this moment in time. It's, and I have a huge conflict with this. I really do, with what it looks like and what I know. So it's like this heart and mind struggle. It really is. It is, and I'm not supposed to primarily lead by my heart. So, okay. Any other questions? All right. I'm sorry, did we have confirmed that they're not just CSI because of graduation, correct? Yeah. So I move that the PEC provide an annual report notice to the Albuquerque Sign Language Academy indicating a notice of satisfactory performance for the 22-23 school year and identify the unsatisfactory performance related to CSI designation on Vista score, negative growth on pages 6 to 7 of the annual report, 1D, rights of English language learners, 2A, financial reporting and compliance, and 4C, staff credentialing concerns on page 10 of the annual report. The unsatisfactory performance should be corrected by the next annual report.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Gibson and a second by Commissioner Brower.
I think that's a fair motion. I really do. I think, and it'll be great that he's going to come and discuss the situation. I think that'll be really good. So I think what we're doing here is fair.
Commissioner Burt.
I think, so there's either one of two things. Overall, outside of academics, the school also did not meet standard in organizational financial performance either. So they don't have good academic data. They also don't have good organizational and financial. They did not meet the standard overall on the performance framework. And so that either, it's not a hill I'm willing to die on, but either we need to switch it to unsatisfactory overall, because it's not just academics. But if you don't, we really should incorporate that their overall rating also did not meet standard. So either adding that but I actually feel like it should be unsatisfactory overall due to that.
So they had 3 unsatisfactories in the performance framework. I'm trying to think back because there's other schools that have had 3 reds, so I don't know how they didn't meet the overall standard.
I think it may be all the yellows too,
Those are the 3 yellows.
as well. And that,
I mean, they've got 17 meet standards.
So, I'm sorry. Calling on myself here.
Sorry.
No, don't worry about it.
Just trying
It's
to
all-
dig
I know.
through this.
I would agree with Commissioner Burt on this. If it were just one area or another, I think satisfactory would be okay. But here we have, staff credentialing, we have attendance and retention, and then the financial pieces. So it's not just about the academics, it's about the overall kind of organizational performance of the school. So I'm glad that Rafe, excuse me, that Rafe is coming next month. And we can talk about this more, But I would rather a designation of unsatisfactory.
Commissioner Ingham?
I disagree. I think if you look at the places where they have these red marks, rights of English learners, that is specifically a target for schools that are relating to people that are not being served in their language skills. This is a different one. I'm just gonna bet that criteria doesn't fit this. Program requirements, I know that there is a huge problem with finding people to work in these communities. So yes, they're probably struggling to meet that, and that's the other one with staff credentialing. Sure, those are big issues. Attendance and retention, I cannot see, given a school like this, a red mark for attendance when you know that every student in that group is gonna have to continue with all sorts of surgeries and blah, 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 everything else in the world. Internal controls, okay, yeah, they need to get to that. And the financial reporting, so there's two that I can say that are significant that they've failed in, but the rest of them, and if you're just going by sheer numbers, many of those I can't rely on that being specifically appropriate. So thank you. Oh, and I would support your first offering, having it as satisfactory, but specifically noting especially the financial reporting and those things that were really within their control, but they have not addressed.
Me neither.
Okay. Yep, I see it. I see it. Yeah. If there's no further discussion, Commissioner Beck?
Can we include that language that's?
It's in there.
Oh, it's in there.
It's in there already.
It's in there.
Okay, Commissioner Ingham,
Yes.
Commissioner Klostersilage,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt.
It's the first one.
Yeah, this doesn't, the motion I'm seeing still does not address that their overall designation on their report is that they did not meet. And that is not clear on the motion. So their 22-23 overall rating does not meet standard. I am very concerned by that, and that should be very specific on here, in addition to listing out all the reds.
So you want me to amend the motion? Because I've already made the motion.
Yeah, so if
I'm fine to amend the motion.
yeah, I'm
and
happy to
simply
do that.
add an overall designation on organizational and financial of does not meet. You accept that? Commissioner Brower?
Can you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
We're adding an overall designation on organizational and financial ratings of does not meet.
Yes, I do. Is it okay if I give a little commentary? Just on the emotion?
Yeah.
I think Commissioner Burt and Commissioner Vice Chair, I definitely hear what you're saying. It is a CSI school. I have some trepidation about this. It's I'm trying to have my own biases about this school, not lead my decision. Knowing that and and I don't use this as an excuse in terms of like the results, but I just know that it's a different school. If there's any school that is in our portfolio, this is the one that is so different than any other school. You can just go in to a classroom and notice it and see it and feel it. And it's beautiful, but it's not, doesn't square up, in like any other school that we have. It doesn't fit. And so I have some trepidation. I think as a CSI school, I have concerns. The overall rating, I have concerns. I'm not gonna, as you shared, but Commissioner Burt, I'm not gonna die on the hill either way. I think I care more about this is going to support the school and doing better. I do think at the end of the day, unsatisfactory or satisfactory designation for us. I think the school and the leadership is going to continue to have some fire in the belly to figure this out and work with us to kind of figure out some things also around how to think about their data. So that's where I'm at. Like I probably do have some connection to the school for sure, but I think that where I'm resting at, satisfactory, unsatisfactory, I think at the end of the day, the school's gonna work to improve dramatically, I think. So thank you.
Commissioner Beck.
Commissioner Ingham,
Yes.
Commissioner Klobuchar,
Yes,
Commissioner Burt,
What do we vote?
we're voting on the amended.
The amended.
Yeah.
So
the amended, yeah. That's why I redid Commissioner Ingham. Commissioner Burt,
Are we voting on the amendment itself?
No, the amended.
I just
It just
amended the
got
motion
amended?
and then we revoted, we
Okay.
took a revote. Okay. We were just.
Commissioner Burt,
Hold on, I will reread this and so I move that the PEC provide an annual report notice to the Albuquerque Sign Language Academy indicating a notice of satisfactory performance for the 22-23 school year and identify the unsatisfactory performance related to CSI designation on vistas, an overall designation on organizational and financial ratings of does not meet, negative growth on pages 6 to 7 of the annual report, 1D, rights of English language learners, 2A, financial reporting and compliance, 4C, staff credentialing concerns on page 10 of the annual report. The unsatisfactory performance, next annual report.
Second.
Commissioner Ingham,
Yes.
Commissioner Klobuchar,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
No.
Commissioner Manus,
No.
Commissioner Brower,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Armijo,
Yes.
Chair Gibson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carrillo,
No.
Secretary Beck, yes. There are 7 votes for and 3 against. The motion passes.
We are now on to Thrive Community School with a Vista score of 56, with a traditional designation and overall score of 71.75. Commissioner Carrillo?
So very proud of the school. They've done a great job and they're an amazing addition to the Santa Fe community for options for parents and families. And, and since there's no controversy around the school, I'm going to move right away to make a motion. We can still discuss things if you want to. Oh, it's changing. All right. Oh, yeah, it's only the Thrive part that's capped. Okay. We can still, well, we can still discuss lots of stuff after a motion's made. Yeah, go ahead, I don't care.
She's got
Did what you said.
questions
That's fine.
for
Yeah.
outside of us.
It's all good.
No, it's fine. It'll take.
No, go ahead. You sure?
Okay.
Okay. I move that the PEC provide an annual report notice to Thrive Community School indicating a notice of exemplary performance for 22-23 school year.
Second. Commissioner Burt?
I don't support it being exemplary. It's a traditional school designation. I'm so happy they got meats and the working. I'm so glad they have no reds, but this is a satisfactory position. And this is in their first year. I think it's incredible. It's great. But until they're a spotlight or a school of excellence, I won't support them getting an exemplary status.
Madam Chair, I agree with that. I think it's give credit where credit's due. But given the other exemplaries that we've done, I just don't see that same that same level at this stage. I think they have the foundation to get there for sure. But I think that, satisfaction is, commissioners, I just don't think satisfaction is a terrible thing. It's like, yeah, baby, we are satisfactory. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. It's a big wide net, but that's a great thing. Like if I got a satisfactory evaluation, I would be really excited about that. That means I still get my 3% COLA and I'm going, like, and so like, I think that's also, it's not I don't have an emotional like reaction to like having a great school be satisfactory. And I think this school has the potential to be exemplary later on. And so I do wonder if I could provide a friendly amendment to make this satisfactory instead of exemplary. Again, I'm not going to die on this, but I think it's just more in alignment to what we're seeing.
No.
Commissioner Burt?
All right, I'd like to move to amend the motion to say satisfactory instead of exemplary.
I'll second that, even though I second. Yep, I'll second that. We have to vote on.
So on the amendment, I think getting a satisfactory notice and no areas of unsatisfactory, I mean, I would be just thrilled as my report after my first year in existence, incredible. So I feel very good about moving it to satisfactory. And then they have nothing that's unsatisfactory for us to list. Great.
I agree. It's, it's remarkable that both of the new schools have done really remarkably well compared to all the others, but I agree. There's still a bar to be reached for this.
I disagree because the other new school, new school had no deficiencies whatsoever. And the other new school had a couple. I hear what you're saying kind of philosophically, given the first year and everything else. But I think they've done exceptionally well. Their enrollment, their waiting list, the fact that they're adding grades early. I just think all indicate that this is an exemplary school, which is why I would not support the amendment.
Except the Vista score does not show that. So,
Vista
they
scores,
have a waiting list.
yeah,
We have almost
I
every
hear what you're saying.
school.
But sometimes I gotta say Vista score, Schmista score, because so often, I know, that's why I say it cuts both ways. It's just like, you've got to look at the bigger picture, because those numbers sometimes, you get a Vista of 54, but your kids are like 10% reading and 8% math. It's just, I don't support the amendment, and I appreciate the thoughts around wanting to change it to satisfactory, but I think this is a school that's knocking it out of the park.
Can we take a vote, please, on the amendment?
Mm.
So once again, commissioners, we're voting just on the amendment.
Chair Gibson.
Yes.
We'll take a little, this is slow, so you'll like. Vice Chair Carrillo.
No.
Commissioner Ingham.
Yes.
Mr. Costa-Silic.
I'm torn. Yes. Okay.
Commissioner Burt.
Yes.
Commissioner Manus.
Yes.
Commissioner Brower.
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor.
Yes.
Commissioner Armijo,
Yes.
Secretary Beck, yes. There are 9 votes for, 1 vote against. The amendment passes.
So now we are moving on an amendment that's a motion that says, I move that the PEC provide an annual report notice to Thrive Community School indicating a notice of satisfactory performance for the 22-23 school year.
I'll second.
You didn't have to, yeah, that's okay.
All right, whatever.
If-
I'll third.
Is there no further discussion? Secretary Beck?
Making this hard here. Okay. Chair Gibson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingham,
Yes.
Commissioner Klosicilic,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Commissioner Manus,
Yes.
Commissioner Brower,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Armijo,
Yes.
Secretary Beck, yes. There are 10 votes for and 0 votes against. The motion passes.
You. And Commissioners, the last one may take a little bit of time. If we take a break now, and then I think we should be good for the rest will go quicker after this last one. Okay, thank you. Just start. Okay, we are now on to the last school, Walatoa High Charter School, with a VISTA score of 56, a traditional designation, and an overall score of 40.5. There is also a condition that we have to vote on afterwards as well. Yeah.
I think according to their Vista score, they look good, but following their mission-specific goals and their organizational and financial is pretty disappointing.
Commissioner Ingham?
I don't understand not having any math scores for even proficiency or growth. I don't understand how that can be. Can somebody answer that?
Which page are you looking at? Oh, you're
I'm looking at percent of
looking
students
on page
proficient.
5?
4, on 4, there's no math score. On page 5, there's no math score. On page 6, there's no math score.
Bridget has an answer for us. Bridget?
Thank you, Chair Gibson. Commissioner Ingham, it is due to the size of the school. The school is extremely small, and the only grade that is tested for math is grade 11. So an overall ELA score can be provided because the students in grades 9, 10, and 11 combined meet the masking threshold, but the students in grade 11 alone do not.
What are they testing in reading in 9 and 10?
Oh,
It's
hang on.
11th grade on reading too. That is the only thing I'm confused by.
Okay.
Is
Um,
it's 11th grade overall, which I understand maybe
Right.
they have so
Just
few.
the SAT.
But I also wondered, I saw that they missed their testing threshold, that they only tested 75% of students. I wonder if it was that in the math.
it probably was, and I would have to dig
So
into, I'm
that
sorry, I
item
just,
below.
it's invalid, if there were testing invalidations of the math scores rather than the ELA scores, then that would have brought them down under the threshold for masking.
Because they had, most likely, when the math test was taken, they already had a low percentage that participated overall, so that if they had even then fewer students that day that were taking a math test, there wasn't enough that they could report it out. So
So there's no option, it's one day and that's it, and
no,
then.
Well,
they can do it, but at some point in time,
Give up. Yeah, we had that problem in Sandia, same thing.
Kids just
They-
don't
you
come
keep
when it's math.
chasing the kids to get the test.
there are makeup opportunities, but there's only so many, yeah. And it has to, after a certain time, the door closes.
Right.
So there's, okay.
And the makeup dates are more curtailed for College Board, for SAT, than they are for NAMASA.
Yeah.
NAMASA, it's within the school's control. They can schedule
Right.
makeup tests, but College Board allows it when College Board allows it.
Yeah. And so that, because this is a high school, we are dealing just with that testing mechanism. It does, but yeah. Commissioner Beck?
Yeah, I concur with Commissioner Malins that this certainly looks like the proficiency rates are really low, significantly. And again, their mission-specific goals were obviously not achieved. So I kind of agree with him on that situation.
You're doing that. I'm just going to say, I think because that mission-specific goal was related to acuplacer and growth, that's even more challenging to me because they couldn't meet that goal. That kind of gives me an indicator of concern. We're waiting.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. I think, what I, like, I actually, this is one school where I feel like the not testing, that not getting that testing threshold had kind of a domino effect that may have actually worked in the school's favor. Like by not testing their whole population, not having a score in there maybe have been better than having a score. And so I think that's why I was like getting it twisted so much in my head. So I will, this is a motion. I move that the PEC provide an annual report notice to Walatoa High Charter School indicating a notice of unsatisfactory performance for the 22-23 school year related to the falls far below criteria on school-specific goal 1, the working to meet criteria on school-specific goal 2, the falls far below criteria on school-specific goal 3, overall designation on the organizational and financial ratings of does not meet, 1B, state assessment requirements, 2C, reporting requirements, and 5A and B, financial reporting and compliance accounting principles concerns on page 11 of the annual report. The unsatisfactory performance should be corrected by the next annual report.
Second?
Motion by Commissioner Burt and a second by Commissioner Carrillo. If there's no further discussion,
Commissioner Klasasilich,
yes.
Commissioner Manus,
Yes.
Commissioner Armijo,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingham,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Commissioner Brower,
Yes.
Chair Gibson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Secretary Beck, yes. There are 10 votes for, 0 votes against. The motion passes.
Thank you.
If there is discussion, I'm not hearing you.
There isn't any.
Thank you.
So I just have a question on the condition document where it says open meetings, agendas and minutes, because the condition indicates that there needs to be an identified person for that. It says school's webpage and a timeline and person responsible. And on the line for open meetings, agendas and minutes, it says, I'm assuming it was the OMA resolution was approved and posted, but then there's no responsible person for that. So I'm just, and information on how to contact the school. But oh, sorry.
Was this also, is this school one that you've already done site visit work for this school year? Is this something that, a condition that you've already kind of continued into this year anyway? Because that could help me make a decision of whether just to continue it. If you all are already close to continuing it anyway, I'm open to just continuing it so that, just finish it. But if you haven't done anything, then I'll think about it a little bit more.
I want to double check. I think it's in theirs that if they comply 1 year, they're done. So let me double check their contract.
Wouldn't we have to vote that they've complied?
We have not visited the school yet, Commissioner Burt. That's scheduled for April 30th.
How would it be verified that they complied? No, I'm asking Julia because we've always voted on a condition and zeroed out the condition so that if the compliance is determined by our vote, that we've closed it out.
So we can confirm that the board members got the training last year. That's verified.
And that's on there, yeah.
What, is there something in particular that you?
No, I'm not asking you. I'm asking Julia, who's saying it's, the condition says if they comply for 1 year, then they're done, but that's, the compliance is closed out through our vote. That's my understanding, because how else would, if they just submit the documents, that doesn't necessarily mean the documents are appropriate.
I can't quite find it, but all I'm saying is if the commissioners find that this was completed this year, then it would be done.
Okay.
So if you find that it wasn't completed, you could continue it. And I'm sorry, I'm just not finding it quickly.
And they haven't had their site visit yet. So we can just end it. We're good. Okay. We do, yes. Commissioner Burt?
So I'm happy to make a motion
Sure.
that it's complete. And if you look at their website, they actually have all their stuff on their website too. So you can easily see that they have an OMA Act, they have all their members listed. Definitely a big departure from when we saw them first. So what are you making? Yeah. That sounds like a you problem. Okay. I move that the PEC accept the condition report from Walatoa High Charter School and indicate to the school that the PEC finds that the condition is complete and no further reports are required.
Second. There's a motion by Commissioner Burt and a second by Commissioner Gibson. If there's no further discussion,
Commissioner Brower,
Yes.
Commissioner Manus,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Aye.
confuse me there, Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Commissioner Armio,
Yes.
Commissioner Klosasevich,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingham,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Yes.
Chair Gibson,
yes.
Secretary Beck, yes. There are 10 votes for, 0 votes against. The motion passes.
Thank you very much. And that will leave 2 schools for next month, and then we'll be done. Yeah. Because then we'll be ready for the next annual reports.
Didn't just put those 2 schools on this one.
Alma.
That's why.
Okay. So we are now on to item number 11, discussion of possible action to approve budget expenses for this fiscal year. I did ask for our MOU and the 2% statute just to be uploaded to the drive so commissioners can read it again and become a little more familiar with it. But the budget subcommittee is actually meeting Monday afternoon, so that we'll have a further report. I'm just going to reiterate that this was a very unsatisfying situation that we're in, and very disappointing that we can't move forward on supporting our schools as we had hoped that we could by being able to do the reimbursement for the audits, which would have put that money directly back into the budgets of those schools. And it's not surprising, but deeply disappointing. It really is.
Again, I'm always with the questions.
Absolutely.
Is, so this is an opinion from PED Legal, that,
It's unprecedented and precedent setting.
and, just to put it mildly, that, then the funds get reverted back to PED. And so it's in there,
Well,
it's in,
There's still an opportunity, there is still a short window of opportunity to be able to use some of that money. And that's what the budget subcommittee is going to talk about Monday, but it's not going to be in the manner that the commission wanted it to be.
understood. But barring, if there, all I'm gonna say is the motivation here, I'm just stating the
Oh,
obvious,
yeah.
is that if they stonewall us on what we want to do, the money goes back into PED's funding. I find that reprehensible, personally. And I think that it should be, that's something that should be, what's the word I'm looking for, Julia? We ought to be able to ask for an opinion someplace else. And that just because that department says a specific rendering, that we should appeal, that's the word I'm looking for, we should appeal this to the secretary, personally. I think that would be worth a conversation with him specifically. And if we don't get a willingness to talk about it, then we should probably keep going up the intervention ladder. Okay, and it's
An administrative intervention ladder.
right. Okay, I'm just saying, I am not willing to just, I'm a pretty stubborn person, and I'm not willing to just take no for an answer in a lot of places, and this is one of them. And if you need somebody to go be belligerent with the secretary, then, just call on me and I'll be glad
Well, I
to.
appreciate it, but I think Commissioner Brower knows that I have a pretty good belligerent level.
Madam
So-
Chair, I would concur.
I will say that I had a late in the game conversation with Deputy Secretary DeBelle. And I did outline, I thought in a very calm fashion, especially for myself, what this money was in terms of the budget that was already created, that this is, and we discussed the term unprecedented and precedent setting, and I assured her that we would be able to message the precedent part to schools, that this wasn't something that we anticipated we were going to do every year, and that we would be able to message that well enough, and that would be our job. And I didn't agree with using the term unprecedented, and what this money really was. Because her conversation with me was, we're looking to support, charter schools. And I said, and so are we. And I think we're positioned better than the PED to be able to do that, because this money taken from the budget, the SEG funds of a school, can now go back directly, and that school can offer those individualized supports that they choose, not just some program that someone's decided that this would be, useful. And she said she would get back to me. And I'm still waiting. And I contacted her again, reminding her that she promised me that she would get back to me, and that we were here all week, and that the executive committee would be very willing to take some time out during the week that we were here, that we had a lot of flexibility to meet, and I'm still waiting. I've never been contacted back.
So I'm in the same space as Commissioner Ingham, and my only question is it appropriate at this place that we possibly could make a motion to ask the executive committee to reach out to Secretary Romero about the issue. Is it okay to do it on this item?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And that way, that would be, because I think there's still time, there's still the ability. And I think the secretary can, when you have contracts, both parties can agree to do something different, right? So if we are asking them to do something a little bit different and they agree to it, you can. So I think there's still time and possibility. And that's what I would support, is asking the three of you to set up a meeting with Secretary Romero and discuss specifically the putting the money into the REC to reimburse the audits.
And I will say, in another setting, I was at a event where the cabinet secretary was, and I did indicate that we'd like to have a conversation. And it wasn't the appropriate place to get into what it was about. I gave them just a little quick highlight, and then we were off on other things. So I think I'm glad to do that.
I can probably do it really easily, simply. Unless if you would, okay. All right. Yeah, I was gonna make a motion.
Oh,
Okay.
well, you can talk with the motion.
Well, it's like what you said earlier, just agreeing completely. Let's take it up the ladder. No, shouldn't take no for an answer. This underscores again the need for us to be our own entity and
Standalone commission.
standalone commission. And it's insulting, actually, that they think that they should be able to control every aspect of our purse strings, and we know we're doing the right thing. And and sometimes I think that they do that just for the sake of doing it.
Well, it's unfortunate, but it has been, the precedent has been set that this 2% money has been the rainy day fund of PED for now decades. It has. And the MOU moved a little bit closer to putting some guards on it, but it certainly didn't move to where it's, it was a big step in the direction, but, and I agree with Commissioner Carrillo. This is the frustration with being financially, administratively tied. It is. And no one should be surprised with what we're doing. Just saying,
Isn't this what districts do to their charter schools in many ways?
No, but it is true that districts do not distribute often. I'm not doing whole scale. There are challenges with with the 2% money not being I'm sorry, not the 2% money, the special ed funding not being distributed equitably, maybe, to the schools. The 2% money, I will say, we have far more transparency on the 2% money at this moment in time than districts do. We do. But we're still at these stumbling blocks. District charters don't have, this is a completely different relationship than district charters with their authorizer. Their authorizer, if we were a standalone commission, we'd get the 2%. That's what the districts do. They're the authorizer. We've got a middle person between us and the 2%. Okay? Okay.
I move that the executive committee set up a meeting with Secretary Romero to discuss using 2% funds to reimburse audit expenses to state charter schools or other means as considered by the EC.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Burt and a second by Commissioner Taylor. Is there any other discussion? Commissioner Beck?
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Kotsisilic,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Commissioner Brower,
Yes.
Commissioner Armijo,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingham,
Emphatically, yes.
Chair Burt, or Chair Gibson.
I just shut it off. Yes.
Secretary Beck, yes. All right, there are 9 votes for, 0 votes against. The motion passes.
Thank you very much. We are now on to item number 12. Report from Charter Schools Division and discussion.
Thank you. I have a question for the Finance Subcommittee. Does this mean we will cancel Monday then? Okay. All right. So what you see projected up is the organizational chart. And it has been changed to some degree. So now there's a management team that includes Director Russell, me, and I'd like to announce to the PEC that we were able to post and make an offer and hire Missy Brown to be the ed admin supervisor. So congratulations to Missy. Well-deserved promotion. She will be overseeing the work of the technical assistance and training team, and you'll see that we have a vacancy now for her position. So that's an ed admin A that is posted, and we are hoping to hire for. And then she'll also oversee the staff that are in place for options for parents and families. Some of you may have been here earlier in the week and said, "Who's that in the audience?" And so there's 2 new staff members that we've hired. But before we go on to introduce those 2 staff members, I just want to also let the commission know that there was a position for Ed Admin A in the authorizing team practices. And Miss Lucy Valenzuela applied for and also was promoted into that position. So congratulations, Lucy. That leaves open a vacant position in authorizing practices and ed admin O. We were really fortunate with these 2 new hires, one in authorizing and one for administrative support. I'd like to introduce Consuelo Constantine and ask her to just say a few words. She is now the PEC liaison. So you can press your button and just introduce yourself to the commission. Thanks.
Okay. Hi, my name is Consuelo Constantine. I've worked as an administrative assistant, a personal assistant, and a director of conference services for over 30 years. Currently, I work in the secretary's office as his executive assistant.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you, Consuelo.
It is on? Maybe I just need to get closer, sorry.
Thank you.
So currently I work for Secretary Romero as executive assistant. And so I bring a lot of experience working with legislators, senators, representatives, the governor's office, and with all of the PED staff. And I've been doing travel for many, many years with the state. And so I hope that I will be a good PEC liaison for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. And the other person I'd like to introduce you to is Dr. Kimberly Faulkner, who has accepted the position of data analyst in our office. She is, I'll let her speak for herself, but we're so happy to have her.
Hello there. So my name is Kimberly Faulkner, and I have over 28 years of experience in research science and data analytics. I have a PhD in epidemiology and biostatistics, as well as master's degree in the same. A lot of my career has been in public health and outcomes related to those, but the research methods and the data methods and validation issues and quality control and science is very similar as applied to educational outcomes. I have worked in 10 years in academia with the University of Pittsburgh. I have worked for 10 years with the Centers for Disease Control, federal government, as a senior scientist. I have worked for 8.5 years with the state of New Mexico. 5.5 in the Research Evaluation and Accountability Bureau, and as a senior data analyst. And I love data. I love the power of data, and I love the message of data. And so I'm very serious about data, and I think this is an excellent new opportunity for me that I'm very excited about, and I hope to be able to help the charter schools and the students who attend those schools in the state. So very happy to be here.
I'm so glad we have a new performance framework that you'll have a lot of work with data for, for helping all those schools as they transition over, and so much data coming your way. So that's awesome.
Commissioner Ingham.
Can she be a part of that committee that's going to be evaluating the data collection that we're talking about? Can she be on that?
Are you referring to the RFP committee?
Yeah,
They're done.
they're done. Okay. Okay. So she can be,
Yeah. Well,
She will be-
you're too far along to add someone to that
oh,
Yeah,
group.
yeah, we've moved
She could be
forward, but she will
evaluating?
be instrumental in making sure that the data system captures the data that you all need to see. And with the way that we have differentiated the performance frameworks by charter school, she will become really intimately knowledgeable about the options 2 and 3 that the schools have chosen. So she's already been introduced to Jody, Dr. Jody Ernst. And so she's also been really helpful in her current position with helping us understand the troubleshooting that we've had to do with data. Cindy, there's just a bunch of individual conversations. I'll wait.
Thank you.
And Missy, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go ahead and screen share. Yeah, I'm looking for the PowerPoint presentation, on the audits, yeah. Missy, do you mind bringing it up, please? All right, so commissioners, there's two documents in your folder and posted online that have to do with the fiscal year 23 audit findings. Number one is a PowerPoint presentation that we prepared for you. Just to let you know how fiscal year 23 fared, the first document that you, the first slide just lets you know where the trend is going in terms of audit findings. They're up from last year. And then the next slide talks about how the charter schools plus 6 foundations had a total of 147 findings. I think there's more than 49 state charters. That's an error.
No, there's a total of 58 state charters. However, only 49 state
Oh, that's
charters
right.
had findings.
Thank
So
you. So, so that's why there's only 49 that had, and with a total of 147. The relatively clean audits were 56, and two schools had disclaimed audits, which we know is the worst. The next slide shows a breakdown of the type of audit findings with 38 material weaknesses, 16 significant deficiencies, other non-compliance at 54, and other matters at 34. There's fewer repeat than new audit findings overall, and the number of findings of schools plus foundations show that more schools have only one with their foundation, and then two, and then three, and quite fewer have up to 9. There's one school plus its foundation that had 9 findings. And yes, the 9 schools that we are celebrating with 0 audit findings. Big shout out to 21st Century Public Academy, Cesar Chavez Community School, Cottonwood Classical, New Mexico School for the Arts, North Valley Academy, Pecos Cyber, Roots and Wings, Southwest Prep, and Taos Integrated, 0 audit findings.
I believe they had minimally
Microphone, please.
audit findings. It was nightmare. So for this school and this board.
Microphone, please.
Sorry. 21st Century Public Academy, when they transitioned over to us, had a minimum of like 22 audit findings. And a lot had to do with difficulties with APS and the audit findings. It did, but they've cleared, I mean, this is remarkable that a school went from an, oh my God, to this. So I just have to really highlight them to the work that they've done, because they committed when they came over to us that they were going to clear these out, and they certainly have. So appreciate everyone's effort that had no audit findings, but for this school in particular, it is monumental.
Thank you, Chair Gibson. And looking at this list, one of our largest schools and one of our smallest schools is on this. So size of school doesn't matter. Location doesn't matter. But there was one other school that had no audit findings, but their foundation did, so it didn't make the list. So there are some schools of concern. You already noted last year with Estancia Valley, and so it's carried over to this year. They had a disclaimed audit with 9 findings, 5 are repeat, 5 material weaknesses, 2 are significant deficiencies, and there's a number of schools that have 5 or 6 findings. The second document that I have that we're not moving to quite yet lists every school and the total findings. So just in summary, 49 charter schools had findings, and 6 foundations together made 147. Those are the numbers. And the schools that had disclaimed, one is closed, but they had a audit last year, and one is still open. And there's 1 qualified school. And so the next slide shows you what the most common findings were about. So capital asset recording issues, and then the coding errors. That's where this plays into the idea of why didn't this school get reimbursed? That could have played into that. There's bank reconciliation, and bars not being completed, 11 schools, again, that has to do with their reimbursement as well. Less common was that they did not submit their RFRs by the end of the year, but still there was 6 schools that didn't do that. Classification of findings, more data about what was in the audit. And then the next slide talks about repeat audit finding trends, and it looks like it has gone up by a lot. And again, the total. I think that one of the things that you'll want to do that I keep doing is going back to the actual document on the Office of the State Auditor's website. They have an online portal, and they have the complete fiscal year 23 audit posted. It is nearly 2,000 pages and approximately 6 volumes that we have a hard copy of upstairs, but it gives you all the detail of who is at the audit, exit and the management response for any of the findings that they may have received, and whether it was repeat and what year it was repeated from, because they go back, they don't just talk about was it repeated from last year, they talk about the years in which it was a repeat finding. And then commissioners, I just want to point out that the other document related to the audit is a spreadsheet. It is 12C2, and this just lists in alphabetical order the schools and their total amount of audit findings. And in green are foundation findings, so that you can see what the tally ends up being. With a maximum of 9 findings and several with 0. Any questions? All right, thank you.
What? Nicole, I can have a question. So what do we do about a school like Estancia Valley? What intervention do we take?
So
Short answer.
last year,
I'm gonna ask, I'll answer that. We do take, and this is what I said before, that after commissioners get to look at the audits, we will make it an agenda item to highlight those schools that we feel are necessary for intervention, and we will take it, we can take action against them, okay? But they would be duly noted so that they could appear and make responses. You're welcome.
so you know how it takes 2 months for things to end up on.
I
the
understand
agenda.
how long it takes.
Yeah, and last year there were some schools put on corrective action plan that you may want to take a look at their performance this year. They may move off, and you may add others.
Thank you. Do you have anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
That's it.
thanks. So we are now on to the report from the chair. The executive committee did have a meeting with Alma staff and Alma's legal counsel to outline the concerns and the expectation of what the school will address when they come up to us next month. And it's next month because the annual report had to be delayed until next month's meeting. So until it was accepted, we didn't want to have a conversation about it. So the school, I hope, is clear at this moment in time, excuse me, as to the concerns and how they can address them. Okay, so, oh, I'm sorry.
A question about, I was wondering how, so the issues that are present this school year will not have been addressed on the last annual report.
Correct, but they were addressed in the letter. The issues that came up this year were populated into that letter that we sent 2 months ago, a month and a half ago. Because we issued the letter of the notice that the PEC may be putting them on the intervention ladder. We voted on that last month. So there are current and ongoing concerns that are populated in that letter.
Right, but how does that relate to the previous school year?
We wanted to talk about the annual report as well. And the advisement was, I'm sorry, the advisement was until they see their annual report and it's finalized, we should not have them on the agenda
Also, CSD is going back down again.
for second site.
They're going for a second site visit.
Right.
So there was,
The last school year. So this annual report was not this school year.
Correct.
And that's when the issues are. So is the last year's annual report affected by what's currently happening? Like, that's what I'm confused by. It feels like two separate things, but they're being put as the same thing.
No, they're not. It is the annual report that is part of the discussion, but separately from that, there are additional concerns that have been identified, and the school is clear on what is the annual report and what are the either current or ongoing, because there are some concerns that were identified last year that are still concerns this year. But it is clearly delineated as to what are concerns that will be addressed from the annual report and what are the current and potentially ongoing. Because as an example, I don't want to do a big, but it is clear that they are two separate things. We're clear on that, but that the discussion is on, it's two separate discussions.
That's why my concern.
We'll do the annual report and we'll do the letter on the annual report. Separately from that, the school is coming up to respond to the letter. In that letter, there were concerns that identified in the annual report, but that discussion has nothing to do with the letter that we're going to be issuing for the report of the annual report.
So why did we not just do the annual report today?
Because we couldn't do the annual report.
That's what I'm.
Timing.
That's why I'm.
We didn't have they didn't have the 45 days.
What? Wait.
The rule says that they get 45 days to, after the annual report is finalized. Why? Because the rule says the school has 45 days from the finalization of the annual report before it'll come on the meeting. Today's meeting sits outside of the 45.
Okay, so then my question is, I guess
Inside.
more for CSD, the annual report was the annual report modified recently? Is that why it needed more?
Chair Gibson, Commissioner Burt, the draft report went to the school within 30 days of this meeting, but the NMAC specifies 45 days. We did not make that deadline, and so at this school's request, we're postponing it until April.
Okay. That makes more sense.
But we weren't going to push them to May. So as a result of that, but it has been made clear to the school, and in the agenda, it'll be clear that, correct. No, they'll be very separate. Okay. I think that's the only school concern that I have at an update for you at this point in time. Is Matt on, or Wayne or Valerie?
Wayne is on.
So can you promote Wayne, please?
Okay, can you hear me first?
Yes, we can.
All right. Hello, Commissioner, Chair, other commissioners, everybody. Guys, good to see you. Sorry I'm not there in person, but I've been doing a lot of traveling lately. And also I want to say hi to Director Chavez and her staff there. You guys did an amazing job yesterday. I have never seen 2 hours of a meeting ever in my time attending these meetings. So thank you. That was amazing. So PCSN, what have we been doing? Well, first we have a legislative recap coming next week, next Tuesday in Albuquerque, March 19th, and it is for members. The CSP grant, we've been moving along with the CSP grant. We actually had a webinar last week where 70 folks attended that webinar. Not all of them were schools, but there's probably there's many schools that are interested in applying for the grant. CSP, the PCSNM now is hosting 3 times a week office hours just for these schools so they can get more information when they're applying for the grant. So we're really hopeful that there's going to be several schools applying. The phase 1 grant application is due in June, and they will be awarded as soon as August. So we're really excited about that. So they apply in June, and they should have their money in August, which is kind of unheard of. So we're happy about that. Also, in Chair Gibson's district, we will be having a charter school fair next week, March 23rd in Las Cruces from 9 to noon. So if anybody is down in Las Cruces in a couple of weeks, please come down there and enjoy.
Wayne, we've lost you.
Go ahead. Uh-oh.
Okay, I think you're back.
Okay. Yeah, it must be my internet connection. So anyway, that's all I have for today. Thank you guys again, and good to see you. And I'll see you in person next time.
Thanks, Wayne. You could have hung around for the subcommittee that stayed here till 5 o'clock yesterday. Just saying. You know, and thanks for hosting the charter conference, the charter fair. I'm looking forward to it. It went really well the last time. Okay. Missy, a report on the notice of intent, because I think you have one update with one applicant. Yeah.
Yes. It's like me.
Yeah.
Warned me. Yes, so we had 8 notices of intent, but one of the applicant schools has said that they are not going to submit this year. Growing.
It was an Albuquerque school. It may have been the only Albuquerque, true in Albuquerque applicant. I don't remember the name. I do know they were from Albuquerque.
Growing Roots Learning Academy, I believe. Growing Roots Learning Academy.
And Missy, you have given the remaining NOI app, whatevers.
Yes, Chair Gibson and Commissioners Director Chavez and I have met with all of the other applicant schools in the NOI to give them their preliminary analysis of their NOI.
The documentation from the PEC mission and vision work, that's uploaded in your drive, the cleaned up version. So I don't know I don't know what that next step is with that.
I think. Yeah, but I think you were going to
I
do
thought
the
so.
alignment. I think she was going to do the alignment with the work that you've done.
Right, yep, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we asked her to take a look at the new application and then align it, see how it aligns with the mission and vision, but that's going to take a while. Yeah, okay. Newly adopted PED rules. So PED has adopted 2 new rules, one on the calendar and one on accreditation. We provided comment on the accreditation rule, and PED did listen to some degree to all the feedback on the calendar was ginormous. I think it was over 1,000 provided some form of comment. And the accreditation rule also received significant comment. There have been some, there were some modifications to that rule. The accreditation rule had not been published at that, so that it is now, I believe. Yeah, but we will have it on our agenda for next month, but we wanted commissioners to be able to take a look at it, read through it, be more familiar with it, and then I think Julia will have some guidance and recommendations regarding that next month, but sure.
So in the document, the 1E4, it is at the very bottom. Our comment was at the very bottom. And Commissioner Brower, I think you got a victory in that the comments that we made were largely accepted. The issue was, and it's still in existence for other schools, that the PED has taken the position that they can close a school, but not a state chartered or locally chartered school. They need to refer that back to you. So we'll take a look at it more carefully. But the comments that we made were largely accepted.
Just quickly, my biggest concern with that rule is if the cabinet secretary sends a recommendation to the PEC that a state charter should be closed as per that rule, and then we took action on the intervention ladder and we did ultimately close that school, the appeal process sends it to the cabinet secretary who's already said you should close that school. So it's really not a very fair appeal process because I'm appealing is to the person who initiated this closure. So it's I acknowledge that there were significant changes that were made to it, but I don't think I think there's an unfairness that's still embedded in that process. So you know, that's my biggest takeaway with that one. Okay, thanks. So with nothing else, we are on to discussion of possible action on the fall 2024 renewal schedule and the calendar change, which we had a discussion about yesterday with the agreement that, or the understanding that we are calendaring November 12, 13, 14, and 15, with the 14th being 12th, 13th, 14th being renewal dates, and the 15th possibly in the morning being a renewal if necessary. And then we would have work session and regular meeting, or just the regular meeting, whatever. And then in December, we are calendaring out the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th with the hope that we can do 10, 11, 12, 13 and put as the fourth schools. But we don't know, we still don't know the number yet that we're dealing with, and we won't know that exact number until October. Commissioner Burt?
Yeah, I don't think that was exactly my understanding yesterday. So November, there's no world in which we need the 15th. There's only 8 schools. There will never be more than 8 schools.
Oh, you
for
gotcha.
November.
You're right.
So
Yeah.
it'd be great if you could make it work to where it's the 13th, 14th, possibly, if there's any world in which we do that and we don't need to. But yeah, nothing,
Yeah,
definitely
I
don't
got
need
you.
the 15th.
That was my mistake, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw
We
the
definitely
15th
do want
there.
the 14th is what, like, we did
Correct.
decide the 14th for sure will be a day that we're doing renewals.
And I think there's a possibility we may not have to do the 9th if we can do 4 a day.
In the,
No,
the week
there-
of December. No,
May-
'cause I think we were talking about doing
I know.
3 on each day and then just adding a 4th
Yeah.
when necessary.
Yeah.
Because I think 3 each day is going to help us with the fatigue as well. So
But
and
we
then
just-
can just plan on for sure.
Well,
doing
we've
that.
agreed that there'll be 3 each day, but then depending on the district schools, we may have to add a 4th in because we
Right.
don't know. Yeah,
Exactly. But you
Yep.
have 4 days where you can add a 4th.
correct.
Like we could have up to 4 district schools change over and nothing changes on our actual
Right.
calendar.
Right.
And we still have the 13th, like pretty much free. Like just using those 4 days.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. But we do have to vote on this calendar. It's an optional. No. Why can't we get rid of the 12th? Right, yeah. I mean, I'm fine with leaving it. It's going to be only possibly used.
Yeah, it's a place, because
Right.
if you're gonna do 3 a day, on the 13th, you'd have 3, on the 14th, you'd have 3, and then you still have 2 more, which would, be on Friday, and you wouldn't have time for, the meeting. Or the work session. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because one school has moved from from October 1 submittal to September 1, I'd like you to do that motion again, so it's clear to those schools, particularly for September 1, November hearing, that that is what they have committed to do, that is what you have committed to do. It's in the draft motion.
All right, let's do it. Motion.
Yeah, I'm just opening it up now. Or is someone ready? Okay, I got it. I move that the PEC identify the following renewal hearing schedule for schools renewing in 2024. September 1, 2024, renewal submitted with a November hearing. 21st Century Public Academy, ACES Technical Charter School, Albuquerque School of Excellence, Amy Beal High School, Las Montañas Charter High School, the Albuquerque Sign Language Academy, the Master's Program, and South Valley Preparatory. October 1, 2024, renewal submittal with a December hearing. Albuquerque Bilingual Academy, Albuquerque Institute of Math and Science, Aldo Leopold Charter School, DEEP, Monte del Sol Charter School, Sandoval Academy of Bilingual Education, Taos Integrated School of the Arts, the Ask Academy, the Montessori Elementary and Middle School, Tierra Adentro of New Mexico, the School of Academics, Arts, and Artisania, Tierra Encantada Charter School, and Turquoise Trail Charter School.
Please use mics.
No.
Secretary Armio, or Commissioner Armio,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Brower,
Yes.
Commissioner Manus,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen-Silic, Commissioner Ingham,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carrillo, Chair Gibson,
Yes.
Secretary Beck, yes. There are 10 votes for, 0 votes against. The motion passes.
Thank you. And we are now on to item number 15, which is discussion and possible action due to outcomes from legislative session and planning for upcoming session. Does anyone have anything new that they wish to?
I would ask, please, Julia, what do you have listed that I know the transportation is a huge issue for us, and I want us to, as soon as we're able, jump on that, find what is our solution that we want, and then find someone to sponsor in each branch.
That was what I was going to say.
Surely there was, and I'm not calling you Shirley, because I know you're Becca.
She's back.
Rebecca. Well, so then I would ask that we all just really in this next month, really think about, and we can, call Matt Paul if you feel like it, but think about what we want to jump on early.
We are now on to item number 15, discussion of new business for the next agenda.
I have a question for you.
Certainly.
I brought my wrong book with all my notes, so I don't have my EC book with me, like this is my work.
You want to hold another meeting or what?
I don't want to hold, I want to break for lunch before we discuss anything else. No, do you or Tim remember, because I thought I discussed wanting something on the agenda
Yeah.
No, I know that, but I wanted to have it for new topics. Híjole, I know. I'm just wondering if they remembered what we talked.
I do not recall that.
Okay.
Commissioner Burt.
Nor do I.
I would like to add that we approve the mission, vision, and values and put them on the website next month.
Second.
Commissioner Klobuchar.
Thank you. I was just wondering, is there anything, how do we address the concern that was brought up this morning? It was kind of the woman who was talking about.
Oh, it's going to be on that.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Yeah, we've already sent a letter of concerns to the school,
Oh,
and the school is preparing that, and they'll be up next month.
Okay, good. Thank you. I just didn't know
Yeah.
if we're going to leave it hanging, or I didn't realize it was already taken. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yep, yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, why don't we do?
What happened to this screen?
Why?
I can see the screen. This is the reporter.
We're on now, item number 17, discussion of contract for fiscal year 2025 for legal counsel. So, this is once again, one of those contract extensions. And I think this will be the final contract extension before it'll have to go out again. I know we had deep discussions back earlier in the year about having Julia be able to attend the NACSA conference and having that part of the, somehow putting that into the contract. I think at this moment in time, the way that is going to have to be accomplished is through an amendment to the contract. So that if the commission will agree to extend the current contract, and then we will work on an amendment to that contract so that Julia can attend the NACSA conference. You know, I think it's really important that she be able to attend these. The only thing she is interested in attending is the NACSA conference, not looking to go around and go to anything else. But the NACSA conference, they have begun to specifically focus for attorneys of authorizers. So I think it's really important that she's part of that conversation. So we will have to take an action to extend the contract.
Okay, so as I'm
Commissioner
sorry.
Burton?
So I 100% supporting the contract extension. I don't know if I'll support working on an amendment because from my understanding, we already tried this and it wasn't in the original RFP. And so the scope of work is not conducive to being able to support that amendment without going back out to RFP. So I think there's one more contract extension year. I don't think it's worth the time and energy to do for this year, but I think when it gets to the point where we're going back out to RFP, it needs to be considered and added at that time. But I think it's a waste of time to do it this particular year because we tried.
And I acknowledge the fact that you tried. I think Julia has identified those areas where the RFP, it is covered. So I think if I'm willing to put the time in if that's what the commission wants.
I want to approve the contract wholeheartedly. I want to put the time in because I think it's important that she be there. My understanding is that what it was in the original RFP somehow removed, and no, I don't. There's no one talking about or owning that part of the removal, and it's not okay with me. This is our attorney, yeah. So I want to take whatever action we need to to make sure that she's coming to Houston. And it's utterly ridiculous that PED should have any say in that whatsoever.
Commissioner Brower?
Great, I support, yeah, I did. Thank you, Madam Chair. I support the ongoing contract. I do support, and Commissioner Burt, I'm trying to be optimistic. I think that if you all have I know that you have the ability and you have the gumption and the gonus to like have this conversation ongoing, and so I encourage you to do that. I think we do know what some of the results will be out of those conversations, but I think it's important for us to assert our authority on this and figure out some things. I would also encourage, since we're one of probably 51 states or territories that have charters. I mean, including DC in that. I don't know if it's territory, but you know what I'm saying. How in the world do they send their legal teams to this and we can't send ours? So maybe there is an opportunity for either one of the EC members to kind of reach out to some of our friendly states that we know to kind of see like how in the world can they do it? But like if they have a lawyer group at this conference, other folks have figured it out. And so I wonder how we can do that. And I know we have this anti-donation clause and all the other reasons why we can't do it, but other states can figure it out. So it might be worth us reaching out to some of those, but I wholeheartedly agree and support whatever the EC decides.
So do we have a motion? So I'm going to move that the PEC, and how are we wording this? Extend the contract for legal counsel to FY '25.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Gibson, a second by Commissioner Taylor. No further discussion. Secretary Beck?
Yep. Chair Gibson? Vice Chair?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carrillo?
Yes.
Commissioner Ingham?
Yes.
Commissioner Klosicich?
Yes.
Commissioner Burt?
Yes.
Commissioner Manus?
Yes.
Commissioner Brower?
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Armijo?
Yes.
Secretary Beck says yes. There are 10 votes for, 0 votes against. The motion passes.
And we are now on to discussion of possible action to provide input to the chair. Based on the discussions from yesterday from the liaisons, I don't think there's anything that is pressing that we need to give permission to. So I think I'm correct. Yes? Okay. We're on to item number 18, PEC comments. Once again, I just want to, I'll start because I just want to acknowledge the work that Commissioner Carrillo put in on, Vice Chair Carrillo put on contract negotiations. It really went extraordinarily well. And I also want to acknowledge all the work that CSD staff and the contractors did. This was a lot of work to get us to this point. And people don't get thanked enough. And thank you for all the work you're going to do on the calendar. I'm putting that forward. So, but I just want to say thanks to everyone and everyone who came, honestly. Commissioner Beck.
I want to second that. You guys scared me to death on how brutal this thing was going to be, and it was incredibly smooth. Missy and Rachel, tremendous work on getting them prepared. I still have to dig in and see what that option 3 was because it confused the what out of me. But I'll figure it out. And Vice Chair Carrillo, you were a little concerned when we were voting for you in January, and you did a stellar job all the way through with the meetings that we had on the Thursdays and this week. And I'm tired and I'm ready to go home.
One more.
Yep, Commissioner Carrillo.
I just want to call out by name, Missy, Rachel, Julia. This does not, I'm sorry? Yeah, the work you did made my job much easier, everything go really smoothly. It's the reason why we definitely want Julia back. Please don't go anywhere. Please extend our thanks to Rachel. I don't know if she's watching, but thank you very much for the work you do.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
I just took my glasses off, so I'm gonna
Let's go
try,
around the room.
I'm gonna try this. Commissioner, Chair Gibson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carrillo, Commissioner Ingham,
Yes, but I don't think we have to do this, right?
Commissioner Costa Silage,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Commissioner Manus,
Yes.
Commissioner Brower,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Armijo,
Yes.
and Secretary Beck. It's 10-4, 0 against. Motion passes. We're adjourned.
We are adjourned. Safe travels, safe spring break.